Meet Ian Hop, the cold-faced MC who might just be the unluckiest soul alive. He is trapped in a game with a hell difficulty where a single slip-up means instant death. One wrong move, and it is game over. It all started with a sketchy pirated download of Aquilonia, a brutal dark fantasy world. Drowning in conspiracies and backstabbing, Ian now inhabits the body of his own custom-made avatar, a problematic mage build. In Aquilonia, min-maxing a single path was the only way to survive the crushing difficulty. But our genius main character hated limits. Need more stamina, he would dump points right into it. Want to swing a sword, he would just buy one. His logic for this chaotic build: as a hardcore solo player, he claimed he had to be a jack of all trades to survive. By spreading stats everywhere, his character literally broke, becoming a walking glitch. Realizing he had bricked his save, he tried to hit delete. But the moment he clicked, his monitor flickered violently, displaying cryptic system errors before everything went black. He woke up in a rotting swamp, instantly surrounded by nightmare fuel monsters and hostile mobs. Reality hit him. He was inside the game, specifically the notorious tutorial graveyard training area. What did I do to deserve this hell? Ian's mind raced as panic set in. No time for an existential crisis, though. One minor slip meant becoming Monster Chow. After 6 agonizing months in that godforsaken swamp, Ian finally adapted to this cutthroat fantasy realm. It has been a full year since he was isekai'd. Recently, he picked up a quest from a local elder. The objective: exterminate a kobold nest. The reward: free drinks at the old man's tavern. For a battle-hardened survivor like Ian, clearing out low-level kobolds was a walk in the park. Easy money until some scumbags torched the forest to smoke out the kobolds, knowing Ian was still inside. Total disregard for his life. Stupid fire. I hope those lizards actually burned, one mercenary muttered. The one-eyed thug grumbled, while the bald lackey looked nervously at their commander. Boss, that mage is cracked. Should we bail? The leader snapped. Don't wuss out now, you cowards. The fire is massive. He is definitely out of mana by now. But as the words left his mouth, a chill ran down his spine. He pivoted, signaling his squad. He is here. Ian stepped out from the inferno like a demon complaining. Man, this thing is heavy. He was swinging a severed kobold head, its lifeless eyes staring wide in terror. Ian looked unfazed, though he was low-key annoyed to see these trash mobs blocking his exit. The leader growled, "Walk away while you still can, kid. Don't try to be a hero. Drop the loot and I might let you live." Ian facepalmed, then smirked. "If you say so." He tossed the head aside and instantly began casting. The sheer speed of his magic left them floored. The leader's jaw dropped. No chant how. He barely regained his senses in time. "Fire!" he screamed toward the brush. An ambush archer emerged, leveling his crossbow at Ian. The bolt flew, but Ian's reflexes were top tier. With a flick of mana, he cast a localized barrier. He warped the bolt's path, redirecting it straight into the bald thug's leg. The crew froze in total shock, unable to process the logic-defying move. "Kill him!" the leader roared. "Stop staring and finish him." 2 mercenaries lunged forward, closing the distance instantly. They tried to pincer him, but Ian stayed frosty, executing a perfect backstep. Frost gathered in his hands before he slammed them together. The spell triggered in a heartbeat. It was a cinematic display of power as waves of sub-zero mana erupted from him. An arctic blast consumed everything in sight. The one-eyed thug, caught at point-blank range, became a human popsicle in an instant. The frozen corpse tipped forward and shattered into 1,000 jagged shards. Rest in peace to that bandit. The leader stood paralyzed. This was not in the reports. Ice magic. This completely defied their intel on Ian's abilities. Damn it, he was supposed to be a fire mage. The realization hit him: the forest fire was an explosion. Forget spells. Ian deleted the first target instantly before shifting his icy gaze toward the terrified leader. 2 more in the bushes right, he scoffed, conjuring a swirling ring of blazing fireballs around his form. Without hesitation, Ian split the flames and unleashed a non-stop magical bombardment, turning the entire clearing into an inferno. He didn't bother waiting for an answer. Why talk when you can incinerate everything? The blind firebombing was devastatingly effective. The cowards hiding in the brush, waiting to spring their trap, were now screaming and begging for their lives. Faced with his overwhelming firepower, their pleas were useless. Ian kept the heat coming until the screams finally faded away. Only the leader and a bald thug remained, but their luck had run out. Ian approached the bald man with a smirk. One searing pat on the head sent the man to the afterlife. The leader watched, paralyzed by the brutal display. His legs gave out in sheer terror. "Impossible. How can you wield fire and ice at the same time?" he stammered. His body shook with violent tremors. "The perk of being a bugged character," Ian replied, his voice colder than ice. He snatched up a nearby blade and ended the man's misery, sending him to join his squad in the abyss. After decapitating the kobold leader, Ian headed back to the tavern. The old owner's jaw nearly hit the floor. "You actually cleared the entire camp solo. That's insane. I never expected you to pull off a miracle like this." Before the old man could finish his praise, Ian slammed a blood-stained sword onto the wooden table with a thud. A cold sweat drenched the owner. He recognized that blade instantly and the dangerous men it used to belong to. That sword. You met those knights, Ian nodded coldly. Yeah, they were doing some dirty work, so I took out the trash. They're all dead now. Tell me, are there any other flies I need to swat around this village? Ian asked. His voice was sharp as a razor. He needed to know if those corrupt knights had any hidden allies or accomplices. He planned to eliminate every single loose end now to prevent any future revenge plots from coming his way. The old man waved his hands frantically. Don't worry, those losers weren't worth your time. They were just bottom-tier scumbags. All they did was leech off us. A nearby drunkard chimed in. Knights, they were nothing more than glorified bandits. Total crooks. Honestly, if you hadn't gotten to them first, I would have handled those punks myself. Ian let out a weary sigh as the drunkard boasted. It seemed he had been overthinking the threat level of these peasants. Suddenly, a familiar blue system window flickered into existence before his eyes, signaling the end of his bloody work. Side quest. Complete objective. Eradicate the kobold camp and its leader. Status 100% cleared. Target neutralized. You have finalized the quest. Ian stared at the floating notification with a look of pure indifference. The rewards were the usual garbage. Ian suppressed a yawn, completely unimpressed by the system's lackluster loot drops. Stowing the blade, he turned to the shopkeeper. My payment. You haven't forgotten the deal we made, have you? A promise is a promise. You've got a room for life free of charge. Anything else you need, hero? Just get some hot water ready, Ian requested, heading upstairs. Soon he was soaking his battle-worn muscles in the tub. But a sudden shift in the air caught his attention. He lunged steel, flashing toward the intruder behind him. It was just the inn's maid. Ian halted his strike mid-air, but the girl's soul nearly left her body from fear. I'm just here with the water, she stammered, terrified. Ian exhaled slowly, sliding his blade back into its sheath. My bad. Thought you were an assassin. Go ahead, pour the water. Just let me know if it's too scalding. She tilted the pitcher, but her gaze was shamelessly locked onto Ian's shredded physique. Ian didn't miss her wandering eyes. Eyes up here, lady. The maid jumped face, flushing bright red. I wasn't looking at anything, she squealed. She fumbled with the water while Ian drifted into his own thoughts. His base stats were his only saving grace here. Without them, the starting zone would have eaten him alive. But despite his current power, the world felt different. Ian Hope was a literal glitch in the Matrix. Since his arrival, the very boundaries of this map were shifting. Monsters were growing deadlier, and unknown villages began appearing where there should have been nothing but empty wasteland. He was safe for now purely because he was a god compared to these local country bumpkins and peasants. But complacency is a death sentence. If he didn't keep evolving, the next wave of threats would surely bury him. He needed more power. Hopefully the kobold camp had some hidden loot that those idiots had failed to mention earlier. By sunrise, Ian hired some local thugs to scavenge the ruins of the camp for anything that looked valuable. Load it up, Lord Ian said. If it looks expensive, we take it. The scavengers began looting the charred remains. While Ian wondered if his subordinates were actually following his orders, he stood over the mangled carcass of the kobold leader. He had returned for one specific prize, the gem embedded in its chest. With a swift motion, he used his blade to pry the stone loose. The old tavern owner watched, looking completely baffled. Is that gem cursed? Something like that? Ian replied coldly. It is filled with tainted mana and something far worse. The old man froze, whispering, Are you saying this beast used black magic? Not exactly. Some coward shoved this thing into the monster's body to use it as a battery, Ian explained. What if you get possessed by it? Possessed. If you fall for this bait, you become nothing but a puppet, a new toy for that bastard. Cutting to the collection team, two young men were finishing up. Hey Johnson, have you finished checking everything here yet? Whoa, check out that gem. It is stunning. Did you find it? The black-haired boy asked, spotting the stone in Johnson's hand. Johnson replied with an eerie excitement. Yeah, I just found it. I am planning to bring it home to my mother. As he spoke, he turned to the black-haired young man, with a disturbing hollow expression plastered on his face. Back with Ian, he was sorting through the spoils from the kobold village. Not a bad haul from the leader's personal tent. The loot included mana stones and a crimson eye necklace. Strength +1, stamina +1, spirit +3, and silver coins. But this is the real jackpot, he muttered, lifting the red stone. It is a high-grade mana essence, though completely corrupted. Now I just need to purify it to unlock its power. However, this is definitely not the right place for a cleansing ritual. He tucked it into the spatial pouch in his inner pocket. My pocket dimension is small, but it is still incredibly convenient. Despite being transported here, I have retained the levels and skills of my character Ian Thorpe. But there is a catch. The game's start, its progression, the quests and items, everything has shifted. Why were my level and skills not reset? Ian mused. Maybe whoever brought me to this world did not want me to get spawn killed immediately. Perhaps they left me a fighting chance. I am grateful for the head start, but a bit more generosity with legendary items would have been even better. Just then, the old tavern owner found an axe and asked, Hey Sir Knight, am I actually allowed to take this? You can, but it is not free. What do you mean? We will settle the bill later. For now, head to the entrance. Let us see if you have actually followed my instructions properly. Ian stepped outside and gathered the lackeys to inspect their loot. Seeing the bulging bags his henchmen were carrying brought a smirk to Ian's face. Good, everyone's bags are stuffed full. However, these rats are known for having sticky fingers. To be certain, Ian prepared a magical audit to ensure they weren't hiding anything. Manual searching is a drag, but a quick check is necessary. He activated his specialized skill, Monoscan Clairvoyance. Instantly, Ian's vision shifted into a neon blue hue. The henchmen began to sweat. It was clear they had hidden something after all. Luckily for them, they had not snatched anything powerful enough to catch Ian's eye, like a rare magical item. The first two men passed the inspection. Ian continued walking, scanning the rest. Nothing. Still nothing. But then he froze. Inside, the blonde guy's hip pouch, an unusual pulsating color flared up in his field of vision. It was the unmistakable glow of a mana-infused item. Ian facepalmed. He had only intended to check as a formality. But it turns out some idiot actually dared to steal my property. How can you be so brain-dead? Ian muttered. His words made the blonde guy jump in terror. Huh, what was that, sir? For an answer, Ian pressed his cold blade against the man's throat and said icily, "Show me what is in the bag." The blonde man broke out in a frantic sweat, his voice trembling. I do not understand what you are talking about." But mid-sentence, his voice distorted into a guttural rasp. Slowly, his eyes began to bleed into a demonic red. His entire body began to leak a dark, oppressive aura. The other workers scrambled back, shouting, "What the hell is wrong, Johnson?" But the Johnson they knew was gone. His body began to snap and contort into horrifyingly bizarre positions. Ian let out a weary sigh and drew his sword. So he has been consumed by the curse, huh? I guess we were never meant to get along anyway. With a flash of steel, Ian swung his sword straight for Johnson's neck. But just as the blade was about to decapitate the man, it was stopped dead by his bare hand. More accurately, he caught the razor-sharp edge between two fingers with an impossibly smug expression. "You really should not aim for the neck so early," Johnson sneered in a taunting, distorted voice. Ian was too exhausted by the drama to even react. "Oh really? I thought this was just a standard hex, but it seems there is a much bigger player behind this curtain." At that moment, the thing inside Johnson began to scream at Ian, "You treacherous piece of trash. You dared to defile my nursery. You're the thief who snatched my seed, aren't you?" The dark wizard's accusation sparked a realization in Ian. Is he talking about that jewel, stashing it in my pocket? Dimension must have severed his spiritual link. It all adds up now. Without my intervention, these monsters would have turned this village into a graveyard. To this freak, I'm just a glitch in his plan. Sensing an opening, Ian decided to get under his skin. "Getting impatient, are we? Don't worry, Warlock. I'll make sure your mana doesn't go to waste." Ian's mockery sent the possessed Johnson into a blind fury. "You cocky brat," the vessel roared. Suddenly, Johnson's pressure skyrocketed. His hand twisted and warped, morphing into a grotesque demonic claw. With a sickening crunch, the demon hand crushed Ian's blade like glass. Ian immediately leaped back, putting space between them. He couldn't help but swear at the monster. "Seriously, I literally just picked that up." Before another word escaped, Johnson blurred forward, swinging his monstrous limb in a lethal arc. Ian desperately lashed out with his jagged remains parrying the incoming claws. Steel met flesh but failed to bite. Those cursed hands were harder than iron, definitely not human anymore. Stripped of a weapon, Johnson's bare-handed strikes were blindingly fast and relentless. The flurry of strikes drove Ian back. Seeing his target cornered, the mad dog let out a sadistic grin. "Overwhelmed already. Time to learn your place, kid." His triumph, however, lasted all of 3 seconds. Ian answered with a point-blank fireball. The warlock's eyes bugged out as the inferno closed the distance. Evasion was impossible at this range. Boom! A massive blast engulfed the possessed fighter. Ian wasn't taking chances. He already had a few more flames primed to finish the job. He was ready to incinerate him. Predictably, the first blast didn't end the warlock. Emerging from the smoke, the sorcerer struggled to his feet, snarling, What kind of monster are you?" Ian wasn't interested in a chat. "You talk way too much," he muttered coldly. He unleashed the entire volley, capping it off with a massive firebomb. The barrage hammered the warlock relentlessly. Johnson was a blackened husk, yet the stubborn bastard clung to life just to spit out more venom. "You're with Crimson. Fine. We'll meet again, and trust me, I'll be the one to rip your soul apart." Before he could finish, Ian's blade flashed, sending the villain's head spinning. "You gotta give it to him, the guy was tanky." Even as his severed head tumbled across the dirt, a final raspy whisper escaped his lips. "Necromancer." Ian looked down at the remains, offering one final tip. "Don't bother introducing yourself next time you lose." Without hesitation, he plunged his hand into Johnson's cooling chest. He yanked out a familiar gem, though this one was significantly smaller than the previous fragment. "As I suspected, there are more." Standing up, he turned his icy gaze toward the remaining mercenaries. "All right, which one of you is next?" Days flew by, and Ian was back on the grind. He finished his latest task in record time. The old shopkeeper chuckled. Back already? You're a speedrunner, aren't you? Hard to believe you're actually a mage. Ian just grunted. Watch your tone, old man. Relax, you don't have that creepy wizard vibe. Most mages have a pretty trash reputation around here. I get why you kept it low-key. Anyway, quiet, want me to charbroil that beard for you, Ian snapped. A small flame danced in Ian's palm. The old man scrambled back, waving his hands. Okay, chill. Just looking out for you. That black magician isn't the type to forgive and forget. Ian paused. Save your concern for yourself, he replied. Honestly, he already knew a rematch was inevitable. No use stressing yet. He'd cleared every tavern bounty and side quest this backwater village had to offer. Unfortunately, the XP gains were becoming pathetic. It was officially time to level up elsewhere. While Ian plotted his next move, a group of mysterious strangers was already tracking him down. You were spot on, sir. The guy who wiped those kobolds is definitely in this town. Soon enough, the group arrived at Ian's tavern. Pardon the intrusion, sir. We heard a legend lives here, the one who soloed an entire kobold legion. Is that you? A freckle-faced youth asked. His eyes locked onto Ian. Ian's heart sank. Crap, he hissed under his breath. This wasn't just any knight, this was a game-breaking titan. Meet Mavaloran, the legendary blood-soaked avenger from Azaline. A future Chapter 1, mid-boss, driven insane by vengeance. A beast who once solo-sieged the palace to assassinate King Agaland. Every swing is a death blow. A literal impossible encounter. Now this walking nightmare was right in front of him. Ian wordlessly pointed toward the mounted kobold leader's severed head. They stepped inside, eyeing the trophy with pure disbelief. Even border elites struggle here, yet you cleared them easily. Adoration filled Philip's voice as he straightened his posture. Forgive our urgency, we had to verify your identity. Behold, the apostle of Tyran and guardian of the south. The treasured sword Mavaloran. Ian squinted, analyzing his guest. She looked human. The madness hadn't consumed her soul yet. In her future state, Ian wouldn't survive 5 seconds. I am Philip, her loyal subordinate. Greetings, Master Mercenary. Name's Ian Hop, he sighed, looking completely exhausted. Just a humble merc. Why hunt me down specifically? Philip leaned in. Did anything feel unnatural in that village? You mean like dark magic or heretical vibes? Ian countered. He was stunned they knew about the hidden black mage. Fate was twisted, they were hunting the same dark shadow. Time to play the role of a greedy, cynical sellsword. Righteousness doesn't pay bills. Only cold, hard gold does. He turned his gaze directly toward the silent, armored knight. Philip bristled at the disrespect, ready to snap at him. Mavaloran signaled him to stop. He speaks the truth. The helmet came off, revealing a stunning, flame-haired warrior. I'm a woman of few words. Philip handles the talking. Ian froze. The terrifying avenger was actually a gorgeous woman. In the game, her voice was always muffled or whispering. He'd only ever known her as a literal engine of destruction. To business, then. Your intel has a high price tag. Philip handed her a heavy purse. She produced 1 coin. She slid a gleaming gold piece across the wooden table. 1 gold coin, the kingdom's highest currency. This was serious. Ian took the bait. Someone's been breeding those monsters intentionally. The leader was fueled by pure, unadulterated, corrupted mana. He slammed a pulsing red gem onto the table's surface. The dark mage is furious. I wrecked his entire plan. He's coming for my head. Mavaloran's expression turned pale. A seed of darkness was taking root in their kingdom. I need that gem. Here, 10 gold pieces for the trophy. She tossed the entire heavy purse into Ian's startled hands. Ian snatched the gold, weighing the heavy pouch. A greedy grin spread as he confirmed the loot. Pleasure doing business, he chirped. But Meve wasn't done leaning in with a secondary proposal. She requested a royal escort to the palace. Suddenly, a blue system window flickered into existence. New side quest: protect Meve Lauren and slay the dark sorcerer. Reward 1 precious skill point. This unexpected notification sent adrenaline through Ian. These 2 were definitely his lucky charms. A whole skill point was on the line, a prize he absolutely refused to let slip away. Wearing a dark smirk, Ian declared, I'm a sellsword. If you want my blade, it'll cost extra. Philip, witnessing this blatant extortion, cried out in disbelief at Ian's insatiable thirst for gold. Give it a rest, Ian grumbled, silencing the knight's complaints with a sharp, annoyed look. Hire me and I'll track him down. Meve's eyes widened, questioning if he knew the villain's lair. Not yet, but I will. That's my specialty, Ian bluffed with effortless, cool confidence. In truth, he already had a gut feeling about the dark mage's bolt hole. He began mapping his theory. That freak wants me dead. Being bait carries a premium price, he added, making Meve hesitate. Fine. Consider yourself hired, Ian Hope. I give you my word on this contract. With the deal sealed, Ian took point, leading them toward that wretched shadow user's location. However, the path Ian chose began to take a sinister and deeply unsettling turn. Unease crept into Mave's voice. Ian, are you certain he's hiding in a place this grim? Ian glanced back. The graveyard forest is the most logical hideout. a place better known as the Forest of No Return, a realm woven by ancient spirits atop a massive tomb. What began as a military cemetery eventually became a final resting place for the common folk. Centuries of cursed mist swallowed the trees, ensuring those who entered never saw daylight again. Meave frowned, skeptical. But this forest sits in the kingdom's heart. Would he be that bold? He's planting seeds of chaos, just waiting for the harvest, Ian explained to the group. Most villains hide in the shadows to avoid detection, and this particular woodland, sitting right under the kingdom's nose, makes it the perfect, unsuspecting stage for a dark plot. Scanning the sky, Ian gestured for them to halt. We'll talk as we move, but first rest. Meave nodded, as shadows lengthened. Agreed, night is falling. Philip jumped in with a suggestion. Let's push further in. There's a creek nearby where travelers usually set up camp. Ian immediately warned him. Wolves hunt these woods, and I value my beauty sleep too much. Philip's face paled instantly. Right, no wolves, I'll go fetch some firewood then. The knight scrambled into the brush, leaving Ian to let out a long, weary sigh. That rookie is going to alert every monster nearby, Ian muttered, unaware of the glowing eyes. A massive pack watched from the darkness, led by a terrifying elite alpha waiting to strike. While camping, Ian studied Meave, realizing her eyes lacked the spark of a murderous avenger. He saw no trace of the cold-blooded traitor who would eventually drown the throne in gore. Perhaps every villain has a backstory. Shaking the thought, he pulled a meal from his inventory. Watching the spatial bag open, Philip's eyes sparkled with pure, unadulterated joy. This wasn't just food. It was a parting gift from the inn's kind-hearted maid. Sir Ian, please take this, she had insisted, packing savory meats and aged cheese. Her warm wishes for a safe trip now had Philip turning green with envy. What you want? Some plain rice instead, Ian teased. Philip gasped. You're actually sharing. Only if you stop whining, Ian countered, reaching for the lid of the box. Suddenly, Ian froze. His expression hardened into a mask of pure steel. Shut it now. Meave sensed the shift too, reaching for her helmet. It seems we have company. Suddenly, a chorus of blood-curdling howls erupted, sending a chill down Philip's spine. Philip didn't have to guess for long. Within the chilling shadows of the tree line, a terrifying sight awaited him. Dozens of glowing eyes ignited the darkness. Wolves, Philip stammered, his courage instantly evaporating into thin air. Terror gripped his heart. Meanwhile, Ian let out an annoyed groan. Great, there goes our peaceful dinner break. Suddenly, the predators lunged from the brush, forming a deadly perimeter. Meave's eyes narrowed as she scanned them. They look like standard beasts, she muttered. Could a dark mage be pulling their strings from the shadows? Kill first, talk later, Ian countered coldly. Meave nodded. Philip, fall back. Protect the horses at all costs. Steel sang as she drew her blade, but seeing Ian preparing for a frontline clash, she froze. Ian, stay back with Philip, she ordered. But Ian wasn't about to play the role of babysitter. You guard them, I'm busy, Meave gasped, stunned by his audacity to bark orders at her. With that heavy armor, you'll never catch them, Ian pointed out. Meave opened her mouth to argue, but before she could speak, a desperate cry echoed from behind. Philip was being swarmed by the pack. Master, they're coming from everywhere, he shrieked. Ian shot Meave a knowing look, his expression dead serious. Trust me, only I can handle this speed. You've got nothing to lose here, Ian insisted firmly. Philip's screams intensified. Left with no choice, Meave pivoted back to keep the boy from being shredded. Don't you dare die, she yelled. Ian clicked his tongue, whispering a sarcastic, right back at ya. He turned his focus toward the sea of fur and fangs. Seriously, there's a whole army of them. A massive wolf lunged, aiming for his throat. But Ian had spent a year refining the art of killing. He dodged the snapping jaws with effortless grace, though the close encounter fueled his irritation. These flea-bitten pests. One fire spell would end this, but I can't leak my secrets yet. Who knows if she'll betray me? He skipped backward, searching for a subtler way to thin the herd without raising any red flags. Windblade it is, he murmured, channeling a low-tier dark spell. It was the perfect stealthy choice. This spell didn't just boost his agility, it could condense the air into a razor-sharp edge of pure destruction. As a duo of wolves charged, Ian unleashed a horizontal slash, his sword humming with pressurized wind energy. A normal blade would have struggled, but the wind-empowered steel tore through their necks like wet paper. Decapitated, they slumped. But a third wolf exploited his blind spot, lunging with a savage, guttural snarl. Its jaws clamped onto him before he could pivot. But as it tried to crush his bones, the beast realized its mistake. Its fangs couldn't even scratch his skin, let alone bite through him. Ian's windshield was already active. With a smirk, he slipped out of the predator's iron-tight grip. Once free, he didn't miss the chance to mock the mangy mutt. Does it hurt? Your teeth look shattered. Without skipping a beat, he delivered a lethal riposte, sending the creature straight to the afterlife. Ian struck a pose, then glanced back to check on his squad. Surprisingly, they were holding the line. Meave and Philip were holding the line perfectly. Wow, they're actually more capable than they look, he noted. He surged forward to assist. Even the clumsy kid is holding his own out here. But the battle was dragging on. Ian realized this wasn't a random skirmish. It was a coordinated hunt. The Alpha is orchestrating this, he hissed. I need to take out the brain of this operation now. He activated clairvoyance. Magical detection flooded his senses, revealing the hidden layers of the battlefield. Glowing threads of mana guided his eyes, leading him straight to the beast, pulling the strings. Bingo. Hiding in the back like a coward, Ian locked his gaze on the pack leader. He turned to Meave and hollered Knight Lauren. Hold the horses I'm going for, the Alpha's head. Before she could object, Ian vanished into the thicket, leaving the noble knight completely flabbergasted. Wait, what are you doing? Get back here right now, she screamed into the dark forest. But Ian was already airborne. Using a mobility skill, he literally walked on the empty air. He soared right over the snarling pack. Lauren watched her jaw dropping in sheer disbelief. Is he flying? I must be losing my mind, she whispered, her brain short-circuiting. Her thoughts were cut short by another scream. Help, I'm literally about to die, Philip wailed. With hungry jaws snapping at his heels, Ian had zero choice but to floor it and retreat. He bolted to draw them away. Sensing a challenge, the alpha wolf lunged after Ian, sparking a high-stakes game of cat and mouse. Once Ian lured it deep enough, he skidded to a halt and smirked. Still slave to those wild instincts, huh? Always thirsty for the hunt. Across from him, the alpha locked on its gaze, dripping with pure murderous intent. Saliva dripped as the beast huffed in anticipation. To ensure the kill, it howled, summoning a pack of low-level subordinates. These minions were nothing but cannon fodder. Ian groaned. Seriously, this oversized mutt actually brought backup. Talk about annoying. Suddenly, a holographic window flickered into existence. New side quest. Defeat the cursed Andolph. Objective. Slay the werewolf. Seeing the notification, a surge of pure adrenaline rushed through Ian's veins. Hell yeah, nice to meet you, doggy. Time to find out who is actually the hunter here. His blade hissed as he drew it, ready for a bloody brawl. Clearly, this elite monster was not stupid. It felt the disrespect and snarled, commanding its lackeys to shred him. But against a tide of fur and claws, Ian simply triggered Gale of a Million Swords, bisecting the entire pack in one silver flash. Now the alpha stood alone. Ian tossed out another insult. Man, you are way uglier in person than in the game, Andolph. The beast's eyes flared. Its teeth gnashed in a furious rhythm. Ian just smirked harder. What is the matter? Feeling lonely without your little fan club? Enraged, the werewolf lunged. It channeled a concentrated surge of mana directly into its massive left limb. With a violent swing, lethal crescents of energy sliced through the air toward Ian. Instantly, Ian countered, casting the low-tier spell Wind Shield. But the gusty barrier looked dangerously thin. The mana blades tore right through the wind. Fine, then Ian muttered, already prepping his next move. Try this instead. He chanted a different verse, invoking the Azuna spell Ice Shield. The moment the incantation peaked, the air froze solid. A crystalline rampart manifested, creating an impenetrable wall. Under the weight of this frozen defense, the alpha's assault shattered against the ice. Safe behind his shield, Ian's smirk returned with a deadly edge. Suddenly, the shield erupted in light, launching a relentless barrage of jagged ice shards. These were not just snowballs, they were lethal. Each projectile ripped through fur and flesh, spilling fresh crimson. The beast cowered desperately, shielding its vitals with its claws. It braced for the storm to subside, but when the dust cleared, the alpha was a bloody, mangled mess. Ian's laughter echoed through the woods. Not so tough now, huh? Round 2. The wolf's eyes burned with primal rage. It slammed a paw down, shattering the earth as it launched itself like a furry cannonball at Ian. Chanting mana into its palms, it swiped with everything it had. But the beast only tore through empty air. Ian had already vanished, reappearing behind the monster like a ghost. In one fluid motion, he let his steel sing. A brutal gash opened along the wolf's arm. It let out a bone-chilling shriek of pain while spinning back around. Ian clicked his tongue. He could not believe his wind god sword failed to lop the limb off in one go. Fighting through the agony, the beast prepared a counter. Ian felt his blade catch, but he was not about to panic. He flooded the hilt with raging wind energy. Gritting his teeth, he poured every ounce of strength into the finishing stroke. The blade tore through, severing the right arm completely. A deafening, soul-shattering howl erupted from the maimed alpha. Before the echo faded, Ian was already casting again, invoking the vacuum blast spell from his gray magic arsenal. He aimed a precise strike at the beast's remaining arm. Upon contact, a violent blast detonated, and just like that, the wolf was now completely armless. Yet this beast was a true glutton for punishment. Even without limbs, it refused to kick the bucket. Gathering its final scraps of mana, it prepared one last, desperate suicide charge. It barreled toward him like a freight train. Ian barely had time to throw up a frantic ice shield. The impact sent him skidding back. Seizing the opening, the wolf used its legs to vault over him. It turned tail to flee, but Ian was not letting his prize slip away. While the beast was still airborne, Ian unleashed his shield's secondary fire, launching a vertical storm of frozen shards. When the beast had limbs, it could not defend itself. Now armless and desperate, It was nothing more than a sitting duck. The ice shredded its torso, sending it crashing into the dirt. It struggled to rise one last time, but a second wave of frost hammered home, flash freezing the monster solid. Ian had invoked the ultimate Azun spell. Ice prison. Staring at his frozen trophy, Ian finally exhaled. Phew, almost let that one get away. For real, why are you still breathing, you flea-bitten stray? Do you seriously enjoy wasting my time this much? Mana swirled in his palm before erupting into a blinding beam of pure destruction, aimed straight at the beast's heart. The impact sent the wolf reeling, crashing through the frozen barrier and shattering it into a million icy shards. Freedom. With the ice prison gone, the creature felt a surge of hope. This was its final chance to bolt. It turned to flee, but Ian's cold voice cut through the air. Going somewhere. We're not done yet. Planning to call for backup. Not on my watch. Ian descended like a predator from above, closing the gap instantly. Mid-air, his hand glowed with an ominous unknown arcana, crackling with lethal intent and terrifying power. He unleashed a devastating mana cannon directly onto the beast. The raw power slammed into the earth, burying the wolf. The pack leader lay there, jaw agape and gasping for air. To finish the job, Ian conjured a lethal vacuum blast. He shoved the swirling vortex directly into its gut. A point-blank strike like that, absolute unadulterated agony. The force was so immense that a massive shockwave erupted through the wolf's back. The creature began convulsing violently. It hacked up a spray of crimson before finally hitting the dirt. Ian stood over it, lungs burning from the strain. Damn, stay down this time. Seriously. He exhaled sharply, wiping his brow. Finally, the nightmare is over. Ian surveyed the carnage of the fallen pack, letting out a heavy sigh. But then the alpha's body suddenly twitched. Ian's heart skipped. No way. Still kicking great, and I'm totally drained of mana. This is bad. Just as he considered a tactical retreat, the beast's monstrous features began to warp and shift in the moonlight. The fur receded, revealing a human face beneath the carnage. The man's eyes slowly fluttered open, returning to reality. He gazed up at Ian, his expression filled with genuine relief. Thank you, Ian. Ian's gears immediately started turning. Well, this is a plot twist. If you're really that thankful, skip the fluff. Give me some intel or items. Gratitude doesn't pay the bills. The dying man struggled to breathe, forcing out a few cryptic, broken syllables. The deer, he rasped. Ian stared at him, completely lost. The deer. What kind of clue is that? Which deer? Be specific, Ian pressed, but it was too late. The man went limp, taking the secret to his grave. Are you kidding me? Ian groaned. Was that your final meal? Were you just bragging about eating venison, or what? Meanwhile, Lauren and Philip had finished clearing out the stragglers and were scanning the horizon for Ian's return. They stood amidst the wolf carcasses, tense and waiting. Suddenly, the sound of heavy footsteps crunched against the snow. Lauren spun around, sword ready. Ian, in the flesh, he replied. Glad to see you guys haven't kicked the bucket. He stepped into the light, dangling the severed head of the werewolf. Philip turned pale and hit the deck. Lord have mercy, what is that monstrosity? Ian hoisted the trophy higher, his gaze cold and steady. Meet our alpha, a werewolf. He's the one who's been orchestrating this whole ambush from the start. Lauren was stunned. Did he seriously solo a werewolf? Maybe Ian really is the key to tracking down that warlock. But the realization of the danger hit her. Taking on a beast like that alone was pure, reckless insanity. She snapped at him. Why play the hero? You could have died. Did our agreement mean nothing to you? Ian shrugged, unfazed. If I waited for backup, that thing would have vanished into thin air. I had no choice. You don't know that. You're just gambling with your life, Lauren countered, her voice laced with deep frustration. Ian gestured to the surrounding carnage. Look at their tactics. They weren't just hunting. They were draining our stamina. They had a strategist. This guy was the puppet master, watching from the shadows while his pawns did the work. He wasn't that tough. He only engaged because he thought I was an easy mark. Otherwise, he'd be gone. Look, I get it. You're worried. But trust me, nobody values my life more than I do. I'm careful. I'm not the type to play the sacrificial martyr. I'm not a noble knight like you, Lauren. I'm just an ordinary mercenary trying to stay alive. His blunt honesty left her completely speechless. She exhaled, her shoulders dropping. Fine. But from now on, no more solo missions. We move as a team. Ian gave a curt nod. Deal. Now let's clear out. This place reeks. Philip, go fetch the horses. Philip scrambled to follow orders, eager to leave the scene of the slaughter and those terrifying wolf corpses behind. As he watched Philip disappear, Ian's mind drifted back to the spoils of war and his growing power. The immediate threat was neutralized, and more importantly, this kill had provided a much-needed massive experience boost. The moment the werewolf fell, a system alert flashed, confirming Ian's quest was finally complete. A bonus point in vitality, not bad. I was stacking intelligence and spirit for this glass cannon build, but a free attribute point is a freebie. Suddenly, a strange line of text on the interface grabbed his attention. Cursed vitality, condensed curse essence. What on earth is this? Is this some kind of hidden item? While he was processing the mystery, a dark, pulsing crystal tumbled right out of the beast's maw. Ian snatched the gem from the dirt, inspecting it closely. So this monster dropped an essence too. This definitely wasn't in the original game. The system description was cryptic: condensed curse essence, usable item. Warning, the user will be tempted by madness. That tooltip is pure nightmare fuel. The side effects are absolutely unhinged. Still, I'm not tossing it. You never know when a cursed power-up might come in clutch later. With a shrug, he stashed it in his dimensional pouch. Back at the camp, Philip was struggling with the horses, but one of the steeds was acting totally erratic. The second it got near Ian, it froze in terror, refusing to take a single step forward. "What's wrong with you? Move it," Philip shouted, tugging the reins desperately. From the horse's perspective, the man standing before it radiated a chilling, murderous aura that felt like death itself. The animal began shaking violently before thick white foam started bubbling from its mouth. It collapsed onto the grass, completely motionless. Philip rushed over, his face pale as he checked for a pulse. "Oh God, it's dead. What could have possibly caused this?" he cried out in total shock. Ian stood nearby, looking down at the monster blood soaking his clothes. "Is it because I'm drenched in this werewolf's remains?" With the horse gone, Philip had to break the news. "I really tried to look after it. I'm so sorry," he sighed. Lauren just scoffed, telling him to be more careful. She turned to Ian with an apologetic look. "I'll compensate you for the loss." Ian just waved it off. "Don't sweat it, it was an accident." "But man, I'm wiped out," he said, shooting Philip a devious smirk. Philip felt a cold shiver down his spine. Sir, he realized exactly what that look meant pretty quickly. "We're finally here." The heart of the forest, Philip wheezed, his face literally dripping with sweat. His legs were like jelly for one simple reason: he'd been forced to hand his mount over to Ian. While Philip suffered on foot, Ian was vibing on horseback, realizing this new steed was actually a major upgrade. Seeing Philip on the verge of a total meltdown, Ian actually felt a spark of pity and tossed him his lunch. "Are you serious? For me?" Philip beamed his mood, doing a total 180. Ian didn't miss a beat with the orders. "Prep, half wash your hands and get my armor spotless." "Got it." "You got it, sir," Philip chirped, whistling a tune as he dashed off to start the chores. Seeing the kid get that hyped over a little food was actually hilarious. "Man, he's such a pushover," Ian muttered, while he started unbuckling his heavy armor. Lauren watched him from behind, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Ian, why are you stripping down here?" "To wash this bucket of bolts, obviously," he replied bluntly without looking back. Lauren paused, thinking for a second. Then she slowly started sliding her own armor off as well. "Good idea, let's do it together," she suggested. Ian stood there like a statue, his brain completely short-circuiting. And just like that, they were both scrubbing down in the stream. Ian was still trying to process the situation. "I thought I understood this world's common sense, but they weren't exactly keeping their distance either." As Ian pondered the local customs, Lauren finally broke the silence. "Ian, are you injured?" He blinked in disbelief. Is she seriously only noticing all the blood on me just now? Despite the internal facepalm, he just muttered, "I'm good." Lauren's eyes lit up with genuine admiration. "That's incredible. You took down a werewolf and didn't get a single scratch. Your combat style is legendary. Even as a knight, I've never seen anything like it. You're definitely not your average mercenary, Ian." Ian played it cool. "You're just not used to the grind. You're highborn. I literally grew up in the gutter." "I see. You must have clawed your way up just like I did to become an apostle of Tyron. I chose the path of the sword, dedicating every ounce of my soul to my training." Choosing the kingdom over her noble lineage, Lauren's resolve left Ian deep in thought. An apostle, it means trading humanity for a fragment of divine authority. A true power-up from the heavens. But celestial hacks always come with a steep price tag and hidden nerfs. Ian's curiosity peaked as he pressed for answers. "Who exactly is this Tyron?" Lauren froze, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Are you truly that ignorant mortal?" Ian shrugged it off, claiming he wasn't exactly a theology major. In the end, it was a numbers game. Aquilonia is basically a VIP lounge for endless deities. As a busy mercenary, Ian didn't have time for a prayer list. Remembering names wasn't his job. Lauren sighed and began explaining her deity. Serving him requires more than a simple mind. Tyron is justice personified, the illegitimate heir of Rosola. He is the ultimate blade of divine judgment. As his apostle, I live by a strict code. One lie, one ignored sin, and my divine blessing vanishes instantly. Justice. Ian scoffed inwardly. Sounds a bit mid. He bet the god's true name carried way more heat. He knew Aquilonia's true nature was rot and betrayal. Here, every deity hides a second name, a secret identity. That hidden name is their ultimate vulnerability. Take Sola, the god of light. His shadow name is destiny. Interesting, right? Returning to reality, Lauren paused to consider Ian's question before dropping a bombshell. Tyran's alias. He has one. Vengeance. For some, the only way to find balance is through blood-soaked retribution. Sometimes the hunt itself is the reward. You see, the flip side of justice is always vengeance. Tyran blesses those who seek holy payback. Suddenly, the puzzle pieces of the bloody Avengers clicked into place for Ian. Her downfall finally made sense. She hadn't lost her path, she just traded justice for cold-blooded vengeance. He'd just learned the dangerous loophole of Tyrion's contract. One slip-up, one lie, and the power is gone. So apostles are basically divine puppets. Defy the god's will, and you're stripped of everything. A major weakness. Why take the Avenger path? Family, trauma, pure hatred. Maybe Ian could rewrite her destiny and stop the transformation. But reality hit him hard. The game's narrative variables were rigid. He couldn't just change the script. No. She's the Stage 1 boss. Her fate is practically hard-coded. Damn it, I'm still missing too many lore pieces. Gritting his teeth, Ian forced himself to stay cool. Patience, he whispered, fighting the urge to rush. While Ian's brain was spiraling, Lauren broke the silence. You don't seem to have a patron deity, do you? Spot on. And I'd prefer to keep my soul independent, Ian replied. Lauren nodded, sensing his conviction. Still, I feel a gaze upon you. Perhaps a god has already marked you for greatness. Who knows? Ian tuned out the preachiness. Once she finished, he casually flipped the bird to the heavens above. A direct challenge to the divine. After his bold gesture, he simply grumbled, I'm starving. Let's move. With that, the sun set and rose again. The party resumed their trek through the unforgiving wilds. Philip, however, was in full fanboy mode. You literally soloed a werewolf, Sir Ian. That was insane. I'm still shaking just thinking about it. Ian could feel a massive migraine brewing from the non-stop chatter. The kid hadn't paused for air since yesterday. Ian sighed, deadpanning. It wasn't a big deal, Philip. You find trash mobs like that everywhere. But Philip's eyes went wide as he quickly countered. But we haven't seen a single monster on this road. It's been totally quiet. Ian froze in his tracks. He spun around, confused. None. I've been wading through hundreds of them since I crawled out of the swamp. The path to Azella was a bloodbath for him. So how was their journey so peaceful? Lauren chimed in. He's telling the truth. Just a few weak goblins and kobolds. Ian's mind started racing. Hold on. Exactly which route did you take? He began retracing his steps in his mind. After the swamp, his first stop was Ban City. That's where his mercenary grind truly began. He'd been taking high-stakes quests and clearing the Royal Road, the main artery of the kingdom. Every monster in his way had been decimated. It hit him. He was the one who inadvertently paved their way. Philip blinked, utterly lost. What was that, Sir Ian? Ian turned to him with a grim expression. Enjoy the peace while it lasts, kid. This kingdom is a graveyard. Moments later, the atmosphere shifted. They stumbled upon a village reduced to smoldering ruins. Even a veteran like Ian was stunned by the carnage. I didn't expect the collapse to happen this fast. Philip fell to his knees, praying desperately to Risola. Philip scanned the smoldering wreckage, his voice dropping to a tense whisper. Rebels, this close to the Royal Road. How could these scum dare run wild here, he spat. As the words left his mouth, Lauren let out a low, predatory growl. Her fury erupted as she stared at the carnage. Unforgivable. They were innocent civilians. How could anyone be this heartless? Ian watched her with a weary sigh. A true knight of justice, always ready to ignite with righteous indignation over every tragedy. Perhaps that's why the Dark Mage remains a ghost. She's too busy wasting her energy on every side quest she finds. Still, if there's a conspiracy afoot, the system might trigger a quest soon. Just as that thought crossed Ian's mind, he caught sight of figures moving in the distance. A cold smirk touched his lips. Answers are coming our way. What are you talking about, Ian? Lauren asked, her brow furrowed. He simply gestured toward the mysterious group ahead. Let's go get some answers, he stated. Lauren's gaze locked onto them, her aura instantly shifting into something lethal. If they're the ones who torched this village, she hissed, their only way out of here is in a body bag. The scene cuts to the suspicious group ahead. They were frantically digging shallow graves for the mountain of corpses. Their leader paced like a caged animal, barking at his slow crew. Hurry up, it's only 6 graves, move your lazy hides. Quit slacking, I've had a bad feeling since sunrise. Suddenly, the thunderous rhythm of approaching hooves shattered the silence. He spun around, eyes widening in sheer terror. Lauren was thundering toward them, her blade glowing with devastating mana. She radiated a suffocating, oppressive pressure. Seeing a high-ranking knight charging with such bloodlust was their worst nightmare. One look told them she wasn't there for small talk. The mercenaries went pale as death. What the hell is this? A knight? Why now? The men shrieked. But the leader had no time for panic. He had to act or die. Target the horse. Fire on my command, he yelled, knowing a knight wouldn't leave witnesses. Crossbows were leveled instantly. Drop your steel and kneel, Lauren's voice boomed like a divine judgment. The leader stammered back. Wait, give us a reason. Before he could finish his plea, a panicked mercenary's finger slipped. A crossbow bolt hissed through the air, a fatal mistake. The leader broke into a cold sweat. That useless idiot had just signed all of their death warrants with one clumsy shot. You moron, I didn't say fire, he screamed, watching his entire life flash before his eyes. Lauren didn't even flinch. With a casual flick of her wrist, she cleaved the projectile in two midair. She's a monster, the thugs cried in horror. Lauren ignored them, channeling a surge of mana into her steel blade. She hurled the sword with lethal precision. It streaked like lightning, sending one mercenary straight to the afterlife. Seeing his comrade split in half, the leader didn't shed a single tear. Instead, he began cursing the fresh corpse. "You absolute failure," he hissed. "By the gods, how are we supposed to survive this killing machine now?" Too late. Lauren skidded to a halt directly over them. The survivors felt the cold shadow of death looming large. They collapsed to their knees, begging for mercy. "Wait, it's a misunderstanding. We're innocent, we swear. Let us explain." Lauren stared down at them with icy contempt. "Save your excuses for later. For now, you answer to him." Ian trotted up, looking completely bored. The leader's eyes nearly popped out of his skull as he recognized the newcomer. "Wait, Ian Hope, is that really you?" It seemed the leader knew Ian. This might be his only ticket to survival. His worthless life hung by a thread. Ian tilted his head, searching his memories for the man's pathetic face. "It's me, Mizu, the mercenary hunter," he blurted out. "We met in Bankma City, remember the tavern?" Internally, Mizu was sobbing with relief. "Thank the stars, my ancestors must be watching over me today." Ian finally recalled the face, the guy from the first city he hit after the swamp, a bottom-feeding mercenary from Bankma. Lauren glanced back, clearly skeptical. "You actually know this rat?" Ian nodded slowly. "Unfortunately, yes. Once." Mizu gasped for air, his tension vanishing. "Oh, thank heaven, I knew you were a real one, Ian. Thank you. I'll spill everything. Just ask." Ian narrowed his eyes. This level of enthusiastic cooperation felt a little too desperate. I was ready to peel his fingernails off if he played games, but he's folding faster than a cheap chair. "Fine then," Ian cut in coldly. "Talk. Why is this village nothing but ash and corpses?" Mizu's face went pale as he recounted the horror. "It happened right as we arrived," he began with a shaky voice. "Suddenly soldiers swarmed in torches lit. An old man tried to block their path, but they didn't care. They didn't listen to a word. They just kept swinging. It wasn't a battle, it was a cold-blooded slaughter. I was powerless. I only wanted to help the survivors. You have to believe me, that's the absolute truth." Lauren snatched a soldier's arm, demanding to know why the Lord would do this. Suddenly, the knight captain stepped in. "Lord's orders," he barked. "Every villager here is being forcibly relocated to the city of Ondel. Move it." Lauren was stunned. "The Lord, you mean Marquis Whisperer himself?" Beside her, Philip gasped in horror. Why would he order a whole village to be burned down? "It's the war," Lauren sighed. "The kingdom of Angela is mobilizing every single soldier for battle." Her words triggered a realization in Ian. The kingdom was consolidating its power. They were pulling every resource and person into key strongholds to prepare for the coming storm. A massive war with their neighbors was imminent. Ian realized the grim reality. If they can't defend the territory, they'd rather burn it themselves than leave it for the enemy to loot. The Marcus family was moving earlier than expected. Ian spoke up again. "Next. Who are those bodies?" Mizu trembled. "The village chief's family. They resisted and were executed. The villagers paid us to bury them. We're just digging graves for the dead." Ian narrowed his eyes, his suspicion growing. "Is that really the truth?" The air turned cold. Mizu nodded frantically. Ian stared him down, his eyes piercing through Mizu's soul, until the man finally broke. "I swear it, I haven't told a single lie." Disappointment hit Ian like a truck. No quest notification appeared. All that effort and the guy was actually telling the truth. "Ian, do you believe him?" Lauren asked. Ian sighed dejectedly. "Yeah, I get it. I'm going back to find the survivors," Lauren said, walking away without a second glance. "She's always so cautious," Ian noted. Suddenly, Mizu approached him, looking hopeful. "Sir Ian, can we finish the burial now?" Ian shrugged nonchalantly. "Go for it." Mizu was overjoyed. "Thank you. We'll finish here and head straight to the main mission." He turned to his men and screamed, "What are you waiting for? Get moving!" Philip tilted his head. "Main mission? What kind of job requires this many people?" Mizu froze, his confidence vanishing. That's a bit hard to explain." Explaining this, yeah, it's definitely complicated. Philip's confusion was instantly cut short as Ian stepped forward to intervene. "There are lowlifes worse than quest stealers, and I bet you've met them. Mizu, your silence tells me you've already lumped me in with that trash." Ian's voice dripped with pure lethality, sending a paralyzing chill through Mizu. "Not even close. You must have heard of the pack that craves human flesh. They're lurking in your old woods, having already devoured our employer's son. Stay sharp because those beasts have already claimed far too many lives." He trailed off abruptly, noticing the duo sharing a truly bizarre look. Puzzled by the sudden vibe shift, Mizu asked what was wrong. Ian reached down, revealing a severed werewolf head with a cold smirk. "Turns out I've already cleared your quest. Here is the proof." Mizu's jaw hit the floor, their fresh mission was already completed. Meanwhile, Philip's eyes sparkled as he begged Ian for a turn holding the trophy. "I guess we're splitting the loot," Ian remarked to the stunned warrior. "I never knew a werewolf was leading those man-eaters from the shadows. The beast acted like a person. How did you actually slay it?" Ian just grinned. asking which village issued the bounty as night fell. Lauren's return from patrol was met with a proposal she never expected. Bringing these guys along, Ian insisted they'd be useful on the road. Plus, we need to deliver the news and restock our vital supplies. We need to gear up before braving the deadly forest once more. Fine, she conceded, though Ian was the only one she truly tolerated. Faithless mercenaries can't be trusted, she snapped, leaving Mizu completely flustered. You can count on me, Mizu pledged as the group resumed digging. Simultaneously, Ian activated his clairvoyance, scanning for any hidden energy signatures. Monsters thrive in the dark, and staying alert was their only hope. His eyes flashed with a mystical blue light as he turned toward Lauren. A vibrant purple aura shrouded her, catching Ian's sharp, unwavering gaze. You still haven't picked up on the dark magic lurking nearby, have you? Lauren blinked in confusion, unable to grasp what he was sensing. Suddenly, a jolt of realization hit her as she reached for her pouch. She pulled out a crystal pulsing with the same violet energy Ian saw. Despite her focus, the stone remained dormant, showing no outward change. The signal is too faint for your senses, but the energy is constant. It's a demonic summoning. Suddenly, a powerful presence emerged from the dark. They spun around as Ian whispered about the devil finally appearing. Lauren stiffened as a dark-mounted figure emerged from the gloom. The rider was headless, sending Philip into a panicked, screaming frenzy. That knight is headless. Ian's mind immediately began racing with theories. One of the Dark Mage's elite lackeys has finally shown his face. The legendary bringer of chaos, Adulahan, stands before us. First werewolves, now this Philip felt the kingdom was truly doomed. Even Ian was getting tired of these constant high-level monster encounters. That Dark Mage is protective of his schemes, sending his best henchmen. This saves me a trip. Philip soared Ian, commanded, arming himself. Sensing Ian's fighting spirit, Lauren stepped forward to join the fray. I'll spearhead the charge, but let's analyze its rhythm first. It's baiting us. We need a calculated plan before we fall into its deadly trap. Ian analyzed the beast, knowing its movements were a direct mirror of their own. Rushing in triggers its impenetrable defense, but staying back unleashes its brutal offense. Its attacks are basic, so the pro strat is letting the monster strike first. We bait an opening to counter, though even its simplest swings are lethal. Suddenly Mizu, that total idiot, began hollering that the fight was finally over. He cheered to leave but froze as the trio glared with "Are you serious?" energy. Is there a problem, he stammered, but his big mouth had already doomed them. The shout provoked the Dullahan, erupting a red aura that caused agonizing headaches. Ian growled in frustration. It was peaceful until you ruined everything, you genius. Now it's gone full berserk. Across the field, the Dullahan began its move. Crimson energy swirled into its palm. Lauren turned to Ian, her caution peaking. Is that a high-tier spell? Ian grimaced as he decoded the ancient chant. Its ancient tongue. It swears to slaughter any human trespassing on its land. Despite the pain, Philip gasped, you actually understand what that monster is saying. Ian remained calm. His secret weapon was a very specific, rare passive skill. It was Ancient Language Arcane Technique Level 2, a skill he'd accidentally maxed out. At Level 2, it translates multiple lost dialects, a total cheat for ancient events. Honestly, Ian didn't care about its tragic backstory or swamp ghost lore. To him, it was just another boss mob that needed to be deleted. The spell reached its peak. Ian spun around, shouting, "Cover your ears right now. This isn't just a language. It's a curse that melts non-magic resistant brains." Damn it, Ian hissed as the two slower henchmen failed to protect themselves. They collapsed instantly. Mizu fumed, "You idiots, did you not hear the warning?" But his rant was cut short by eerie scratching sounds from the mud. Skeletal hands burst forth as a tide of rotting corpses crawled toward them. Philip and Mizu screamed in terror as the undead horde swarmed their position. The two unconscious henchmen became an instant buffet for the starving ghouls. They were devoured in seconds. Desperate Mizu swung his shovel like a madman. "Die, you rotting freaks." Philip turned to Lauren, his face pale with fear. "Orders, ma'am." Lauren drew her steel. "I'll hold the front line alone. Philip, you're on Ian's support duty. Do not let him down." She thundered forward on horseback, leaving Philip to pray Ian was truly capable. Ian chuckled. "Worry about the zombies, kid. I'm just here for the show." He wanted a front row seat to see Lauren's true combat potential. Lauren charged like a demon. The Dullahan commanded its spectral steed to stomp. Massive magical spikes erupted from the earth, racing toward Lauren's heart. She flooded her blade with mana, effortlessly cleaving through the obsidian shards. Closing the distance, she unleashed a devastating thrust right through the monster's core. Ian watched the invincible boss get folded and gave a dry, sheepish smile. Maybe I should have picked the knight class. She's absolutely carrying the team. But he knew victory required more. She had to master its movement attributes. "Time to warm up," Ian muttered, preparing to jump in if things got messy. Eerie lights flare whenever our blades collide. He's definitely hiding something. Just as she realized this, the shattered remains of the Dullahan began to pulse and merge, reconstructing his body as if he were never touched. Cold sweat beaded on Lauren's brow. Impossible. His lethal wounds had completely vanished. Suddenly across the battlefield, the knight began muttering a dark incantation. In an instant, obsidian magical spikes lunged toward Lauren like jagged shadows. Lauren clenched her jaw, her blade dancing in a desperate arc to intercept the shards. But then, the unthinkable happened. The magical remnants didn't fade. They fused into a lethal bone whip that lunged at her throat. This jagged surprise attack forced Lauren into a frantic block, and the weapon's unpredictable reach was a nightmare. This whip, it's forged from bone. It's too flexible and erratic to parry from a distance. With a cruel flick, the Dullahan lashed out relentlessly, bombarding her from every conceivable angle. Lauren's defense finally faltered. The whip snaked around her blind spot, coiling like a hungry viper around her left arm. She let out a strangled cry as the bind tightened. This vile energy is eating through my holy protection. If I don't break free, I'll lose my arm for sure. Just as despair began to set, in a blinding flash of steel cleaved through the air, shattering the bone bind into dust instantly. Standing there with a confident smirk was Ian. He coolly remarked, "My bad, those zombies were a bit of a nuisance. But I've read this monster's pattern now. Let's end this. Round 2. Don't hold back, give it everything you've got and blow this thing to hell." On cue, the Dullahan swung its whip with renewed fury. Ian and Lauren reacted instantly, spurring their mounts into a synchronized weave to evade the strike. Strangely, the monster's focus shifted entirely toward Ian. This opening was exactly what Lauren needed. "I don't fully get your plan, Ian, but I'm trusting you on this one. I'm going to bury this headless freak with the tip of my blade of vengeance." Chanting her power, she became a beacon of radiant light. Meanwhile, Ian was barely hanging on, dodging the monster's savage lashes by a hair's breadth. He was pushed to the absolute limit. Just as the creature closed in for the kill, Ian didn't panic. A wild grin played on his lips. "You think you've caught me? Think again. It's time for the counter." At that moment, the thunder of hooves erupted from behind the monster. The Dullahan stiffened in shock, spinning around to face the new threat, but it was already too late. Lauren had already unleashed a devastating thrust, skewering its torso once more. But despite the direct hit, a sense of dread washed over her. That damn light again. It's already starting to heal. "Is this whole thing pointless?" she screamed in frustration. "Ian, the bastard is just regenerating again." "I already know," Ian cut her off, his voice calm and steady. He unleashed a massive slash, but strangely, his blade met only empty air. Lauren stood frozen in confusion. What is he doing? Why is he missing? Then she noticed something chilling. The other pieces were vanishing. The remaining shreds of the cloak swirled together, forming a jagged obsidian spear that impaled the leg of Ian's horse. As the animal shrieked in agony, Ian whispered a soft farewell. "You did great, buddy. Rest now." With a powerful leap, he abandoned the saddle and charged straight for the core armor fragments. Without a second's hesitation, he brought his blade down, pulverizing those 2 armor pieces. Lauren watched breathless. He actually did it. He shattered the defense. With the last fragments crushed, the creature's regeneration cycle finally snapped. The swirling black miasma evaporated, leaving behind nothing but a weathered ashen skull. Lauren gasped. "A skull, is that the monster's true heart?" Sensing the vulnerability, Ian's expression transformed into pure, unadulterated killing intent. He raised his sword high for a final crushing blow. As steel met bone, the skull's eye sockets erupted in an intense violet glare. Suddenly, Lauren felt a numbing sensation wash over her entire body. "I can't move. It's a paralysis curse. It bypassed my holy power. Damn it, did Ian get caught in it too?" She looked toward him. Ian was also locked in a desperate struggle. Staring at the glowing red-eyed skull, he cursed his own immobility. "This freak is trying to return to its original form. This is bad. I have to move before it recovers." Summoning every ounce of will, Ian forced his hand to twitch. He launched a lethal strike right at the cranium. The skull was shook. It shrieked in a twisted demonic tongue. Ian just smirked, his eyes cold. "Like that werewolf Andolph, you've probably got some desperate survival trick ready. I knew a bottom feeder like you would have a last-ditch move. Die already." Ian's grin turned predatory as he stared it down. "Here's why your plan failed." It came down to Ian's insane stats, endurance, magic resistance, and pure intellect. Between his chaotic mix of active and passive skills, Ian's build was a total powerhouse. Those traits created a broken synergy, meaning that curse only slowed him down slightly. Back in the fight, Ian started schooling the skull on its poor life choices. "Honestly, you should have invested in an escape skill. Don't you agree, you piece of junk?" He slammed the bone down, mana swirling around his blade. Ready for round 2. Ian's voice was pure ice. Skull number 3 started sweating, realizing it was cooked. It tried to bolt, but how could a legless freak outrun a monster like Ian? In a flash, Ian closed the gap, his blade sending the creature crashing back down. A relentless barrage followed, turning the earth into a crater. Lauren watched from afar. She was lost. The paralysis was gone, but this level of raw violence was insane. A cunning monster absolutely wrecked by brute force. Now, back to the crumbling Dullahan. Under Ian's heavy blows, the skull finally began to splinter. It was officially done. It screeched a final desperate threat, but Ian didn't give a single damn. He raised his sword high and drove it straight through the center of the skull. A blinding explosion of light erupted. The shockwave was so intense Lauren looked away. As the dust settled, the skull lay in pieces. Ian finally let out a breath. Keep your grudges to yourself. I only care about putting you in the ground. Just then, Ian's blade shattered from the impact. Even his gear couldn't handle that. He clicked his tongue in annoyance. Great, another broken sword. The dark sorcerer snapped. His prize knight, his masterpiece, had been deleted. The wizard was spiraling into rage. First, the kobold chief, now my swamp knight. That bastard Crimson is ruining everything. My precious work destroyed, he screamed, hurling forbidden books against the walls in fury. He paced for minutes before finally cooling down. No, this is actually perfect, he muttered. I'll use this chance to wipe out those pests. This world will burn. It will all return to the void. I will break these chains and become a god. And when I do, I'm going to tear that man apart. With that vow, we shift scenes to a quiet little village nearby. Two farmers were gossiping. Did you hear? The cook finally snapped and fell ill. The man in the hat just nodded. His son was wolf food. Not surprising. The farmer with the hoe sighed. Any news on those mercenaries, the tough ones? The ones who acted like big shots? Who knows, the hatted man replied. Just then, Ian's party finally rolled into the village gates. A pack of armed strangers appearing out of nowhere quickly drew a crowd. Look at that armor, is he a knight? But what's with that weird pot? Then everyone spotted Mizu leading the group. Necks began to turn. Look, that mercenary killed the wolves. Is that a severed head in his hand? Look at his face. He actually did it. That man is a true hero. Mizu basked in the glory, his chest puffing out. He looked back at Ian, grinning. See, an hour early. You're lucky to have a guide like me, Sir Ian. Do I seriously have to keep lugging this head? It's not that I'm creeped out, it's just weirdly heavy. Want me to slice off your hand to lighten the load? Griffin's voice was ice. Mizu paled instantly. Wait, I'm joking, just a joke. He snapped back to attention, eyes glued forward. Ian sighed, watching the mercenary's sudden display of total submission. It seemed Mizu had fully embraced his new role as their loyal guide. This dynamic brought back a memory from that one fateful night. Back then, Mizu was frantically digging graves for his fallen comrades. Seeing him work like a man possessed, Philip tried to intervene. Mizu, give it a rest. But the mercenary didn't stop. His shovel kept hitting the dirt rhythmically as he muttered, I can't. I'm the only one who made it out alive. I won't have their restless spirits coming back to haunt me for leaving them like trash. They suffered enough while they were breathing, Mizu added, his voice cracking with grief. The raw emotion left young Philip speechless. Turning toward his master, Philip broke the silence. What's the play, Lauren? We're burning daylight and falling way behind schedule. He handed Lauren a skewer of grilled meat, but his mind was on the mission. Lauren took a bite, nodding slowly. You're right. Since we teamed up with Ian, every day has been a literal battlefield. We've lost 2 horses already. That's a massive setback, Philip noted. Reaching the graveyard forest will take us at least a full week now. At this pace, we'll never have time to explore the other regions. Nearby, Mizu finished the last burial and caught their drift. Wiping the sweat from his brow, he chimed in. Did I hear you say you're headed for the graveyard forest? A week. Nah. If you take the mercenary's secret shortcut, you'll be there in 5 days, even with a pit stop at the village. Ian's ears perked up instantly. A shortcut was exactly what they needed to get back on track. Can you actually back that claim up? Ian asked, his voice low and steady. Mizu flinched under the sudden pressure. Well, it's a death trap of a path. But before he could finish the warning, Ian cut him off. Done. You're our new navigator to the forest. Mizu's jaw hit the floor. Wait, what? Are you insane? To shut down the panic attack, Ian flicked a gold coin at him. Mizu caught it by reflex, still trembling with shock. Why are you even going to that cursed place anyway? He grumbled, but then his eyes landed on the gold. The shimmering metal was so bright it practically blinded him. Wait, what the hell kind of gold coin is this? Back in the present, Ian watched him with a smirk. That single royal gold coin was worth double any standard currency. After stealing Mizu's wolf-slaying reward, Ian knew the guy was broke and desperate for cash. An offer like that was impossible to refuse. Ian originally only meant to escort Lauren, but a meat shield guide would be useful. Having another blade around for the upcoming fight against the Dark Mage was just smart business. Lost in thought, Ian didn't realize they'd arrived at a local inn. Mizu grinned, pointing at the sign. The grub here is top tier, and the ale is even better. Let's split up and handle our errands, then regroup here later. I need to go settle that wolf quest. Ian didn't protest. Instead, he tossed a handful of silver to Philip. Philip hit the stables. Get some fresh mounts, including one for yourself. Philip beamed, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Seriously, thank you, sir. I'm on it. It's a loan, kid. Don't forget my change, Ian added coldly. Lauren stepped forward, then looking curious. You mentioned visiting the Rusola temple, right? Mind if I tag along? I could use a moment of prayer myself. Ian immediately shot that idea down with a dismissive wave. No thanks. We're better off splitting up for now. I've got a side errand that might take some time. Plus, if we both disappear, who's going to keep those two idiots in check? Lauren hesitated but realized Ian had a point about the group's safety. Fair enough, she sighed, yielding to his logic. Ian headed toward the church alone, his excuse to Lauren being a total fabrication. He knew knights like Lauren took faith and honor way too seriously for their own good. In front of a priest, people like her were basically walking wallets. Ian wasn't about to let more money slip through his fingers. With those cynical thoughts, he pushed open the heavy church doors and stepped into the silence. The interior was deserted. At the altar stood a kneeling statue, its stone hands raised as if to catch the heavens. A strange shimmering dust cascaded from its palms like falling stars. Ian stopped in his tracks, genuinely stunned. A statue. This isn't some low-tier magic or a trick of the light. This is different. This is a genuine miracle. A meditation temple. Finally, a way to wash away these filthy impurities, Ian thought with a grin. Suddenly, the golden dust flared with an intense light multiplying until the entire room was blinded by the glow. What the hell? What's happening with this thing? Ian hissed. Behind him, the sound of footsteps echoed as an old man approached. Who goes there? Prayer hours are long over. Why are you? The old man's voice died in his throat. His gaze locked onto the shimmering statue and a mysterious divine resonance filled the chamber. Trembling with awe, he cried, Lord Rusola, why has a holy apostle of light graced this humble village? Ian stood there completely baffled. Wait, back up. What apostle are you talking about? The elder's face instantly shifted into a mask of pure kindness. It must be true. The last time such a brilliant holy light appeared was when an imperial apostle visited ages ago. The realization finally hit Ian. This guy was definitely getting the wrong vibe. He's totally mistaken, Ian muttered to himself. I haven't even done anything yet. Turning back to the elder, Ian sighed. Look, I'm just an ordinary mercenary, nothing more. I'm no holy man or devoted follower. The old man gasped. Wait, you're not. Ian stared intensely at the statue, a chill running down his spine. I'm being watched. I can't fake being an apostle while a god is literally staring at me. That's a death sentence. Seeing that Ian wasn't a believer, the old man shifted his tone into recruiter mode. Well then, perhaps you'd consider devoting your soul to Lord Rusola, starting from this very moment. Ian almost laughed. Just as he was being nagged, a legendary quest notification flashed before his eyes. It was the 4 apostles of Rusola quest a divine calling from the god of humanity. Become a holy representative, and you'll be granted a fraction of the goddess's own power. He recognized this quest from his past life, but back then, his level was way too low. It seemed all those old gameplay restrictions had finally vanished in this new reality. That's exactly why he was receiving this now. The old man noticed Ian's contemplative silence. No need to rush, he urged. Just remember your loyal servant Edward when the time comes. Ian flashed a sly, predatory grin. Fine then, Edward. I'll keep you in mind. But since we're friends, I need a favor right now. The old man beamed. Tell me everything. Ian reached into his inventory and pulled out several glowing violet stones. Can you use your holy light to cleanse the corruption from these? Edward's jaw dropped. Wait, tainted mana, the elder stammered. This isn't from some low-level demonic creature. Can you fix them or not? I'm leaving by tomorrow afternoon. Edward's eyes narrowed greedily. I want to help truly. The goddess has blessed us with so much light today. But my energy is limited. Purifying so many at once is taxing. Unless you make a donation, a generous gift to the temple might give me the strength to pray through the night. Edward flashed a devious, money-hungry smile, clearly trying to squeeze Ian for every cent. Ian saw right through the scam. He glanced at the statue and sighed deeply. Guess following Rusola is way too expensive for me. His finger hovered over the decline button. Instantly, the divine glow flickering in the statue's palms began to fade into darkness. The goddess Edward shrieked in terror. He lunged toward Ian, shouting, Wait, no charge. Pardon, Ian asked, playing dumb. The old man dropped to his knees, trembling. I was wrong. Helping someone favored by the goddess is the greatest honor imaginable. As soon as he repented, the golden dust flared back to life brighter than ever before. Then get to work, Edward, Ian said coldly. Show the goddess your true loyalty. Yes, sir, Edward replied helplessly, his hands shaking as Ian handed over the cursed gems. With that business settled, Ian headed straight back to the local inn to meet his crew. Inside, the tavern was roaring. Mizu spotted him and cheered. Look who finally showed up. Whatever Mizu told Philip must have been wild because the guy looked absolutely stunned. Did you really one-shot that monster? Tell us the story. Ian just rolled his eyes. So the whole gang is here. Great. Now kid, where's the change you owe me? Philip quickly forked over their remaining coins. Take it, Pops. That's every cent we've got left. After securing the horses, Philip asked with gleaming eyes, Boss, did you actually slay a real dragon? Regardless of the dragon's validity, Ian's lethal gaze instantly snapped Mizu back to his senses. I barely spilled anything, he was just nosy about your history, Mizu stammered defensively. Ian grit his teeth, setting the record straight. It wasn't a dragon, just a full-grown drake. A winged lizard isn't a true dragon. But before he could even finish his sentence, the two idiots slammed the table, roaring. You saw a real dragon. You're not capping right, boss. Ian's patience snapped. Shut it or I'll rip your tongues out. You're seriously getting on my nerves. His threats fell on deaf ears as the two knuckleheads just kept prying for more details. Why were you in that swamp anyway? Mizu leaned in. Honestly, I'm dying to know too. Isn't that place cursed? Rumor says only ancient descendants can survive stepping foot in there. Their questions triggered Ian's memories of the system's cryptic lore and explanations. He recalled a snippet from his character window mentioning his status as an ancient descendant. Is that why the shadow barrier didn't break my mind? Is this some kind of overpowered birthright? That shadow barrier is a colossal void of darkness that literally splits the entire continent in half. Most of Aquilonia's chaos traces back to that dark rift. It is the game's biggest mystery. Just like my current target, the Dark Mage. Suddenly, a heavy thud echoed through the room. Lauren finally snapped at the noise, slamming her ale mug onto the wooden table. Enough. You guys talk way too much. You're clearly wasted. Just get out and go home already. Her roar sobered them up instantly. They realized they had seriously crossed a line. My bad, Milady. Philip bowed while Mizu sheepishly rubbed the back of his neck. They retreated to their rooms, still throwing shade at each other. This is all your fault. Ian watched the bickering duo while sipping his beer. My ears never get a moment's peace. Suddenly, Lauren spoke up softly. Hey Ian, want to go for a walk? We need to talk. Soon the two of them were strolling down the quiet, moonlit streets together. Lauren broke the silence first. Ian, are you okay after taking that item from the Headless Knight? The loot. Ian's mind flashed back to the moment he finally crushed the Headless Horseman. After splitting the knight's helmet in two, he had started grumbling about his trashed equipment. Damn it, another blade ruined, Ian muttered, staring at his chipped and broken sword. Suddenly, a shadowy mass slithered out from the skull while Ian was momentarily distracted. Thanks to his insane reflexes, Ian snatched the entity right out of the air. What the hell? Before he could finish complaining, the strange object began invading his veins with a dark chill. Hissing voices filled his mind, screaming hallucinations of pure, unadulterated hatred toward humanity. I curse you all to die, the phantoms lunged, clawing at his throat with ghostly hands. But this level of trauma was light work. Ian actually let out a mocking laugh. Is that it? This madness is nothing compared to the hell I've already endured in-game. He unleashed a surge of pure energy, shattering the dark visions into 1,000 pieces. Glaring at his palm, he thought, so, you're the culprit. Time to taste your own medicine. Ian channeled mana into his hand, crushing the darkness with sheer, overwhelming force. The entity instantly stopped struggling. It went dead silent, submitting to its new master. It felt as if a new limb had sprouted, a sensation identical to sensing magic for the first time. Ian opened his hand to find a tiny snake coiled there, looking surprisingly small and submissive. A snake, so you're the one. Does this make you my new pet now? A miniature serpent slithered into view. Ian's lips curled into a satisfied smirk. So, just a snake. You're the one broadcasting those feelings, huh? Guess you're my familiar now. The moment Ian finished speaking, a tiny serpent glided across his palm, cinching around his finger into a living emerald band. Fresh loot. The ultimate trophy from the Headless Horseman, the Swamp's Grudge, unique class item. This serpentine jewelry packs a punch, unleashing a mind-scrambling curse the moment combat ignites. Weak-willed foes will absolutely spiral into a paralytic panic, leaving them completely wide open. Who knew such a legendary seal could be broken so easily? Ian marveled at the glistening ring. Turning to Lauren with a confident smirk, he reassured her. Relax, I'm perfectly fine. Lauren's eyes widened at his swagger as she gasped. Honestly, you're just built different. From lichens to that terrifying Dullahan, not even a cursed knight's aura can touch you. It makes sense though, you've already survived hell and back in that godforsaken swamp solo. Her praise made Ian's head spin. He wondered why she kept rehashing his swamp era. Lauren's gaze softened. As a soldier from the desolate borderlands, I consider myself incredibly lucky. Meeting a legend like you, Ian. It's a blessing. Ian met her words with heavy silence. After a tense beat, he cut through the fluff. Alright, what's the real tea here? Lauren dropped the act. Fine. I just found out about the shadow mages recently. Right as I was packing up to leave the frontier, a mysterious letter arrived. It's from Vernon, my baby brother, and the current patriarch of the prestigious House Lauren. His family has been the crown's ultimate shield for centuries. Ian's gears began to turn. Wait, this guy wasn't in the original game files, Ian thought. Isn't that a bit sus? A goddess's apostle at the border, while the heir plays bodyguard suspicious. Lauren sighed heavily. If I stayed in the spotlight, Vernon would have lived forever in my shadow, she admitted. Giving up her glory for him. That's rare nobility, Ian mused, looking at her. Maybe that's why the goddess chose her. Lauren's expression darkened. But there's a catch. Vernon has a major chip on his shoulder. He's desperate to outshine me. His letter warns that a dark rot is festering right at the heart of the kingdom. While the king gears up for war, our target mage is hiding in plain sight. Ian reached out his hand. Let me see that. Lauren blinked, caught off guard. Actually, nothing you do surprises me anymore, she joked, handing over the parchment. Ian scanned the lines, connecting the dots. Your brother is playing a dangerous game of power. He's using this mage hunt to climb the social ladder. Internally, Ian saw the darker truth. He's planning a purge to seize the lands of Traitorous' nobles and expand his power. The minor houses would eat it up, but why involve his sister in this scheme? Ian voiced his theory. He's benching you so you don't snatch his MVP title. Lauren flinched, the harsh truth hitting home. It hurts, but you're right. I wasn't even interested. I reached out to him weeks ago, but the radio silence has lasted over a month. Ian froze. A month. If he's been hunting a dark mage that long, things are cooked. Silence fell. Lauren read the room immediately. I know what you're thinking, Ian. It looks bad, but don't count him out. He's been training like a beast to beat me. Still, he's in way over his head. We have to find out what really happened. Lauren's knuckles turned white as she trembled. Ian finally saw the full picture forming. It all makes sense now. The origin story of the legendary blood-soaked Avenger. This is why she storms the palace and goes on a king-slaying rampage later on. In the original timeline, nobody knew if Vernon lived or died. He was just a ghost. He probably got set up or took out the wrong target in the Angeline faction. In the game, grief turned her into a monster, a puppet fueled by pure, unadulterated rage. Lauren exhaled sharply. Ian, I need that mage, but mostly, I need you. We're flying blind and I need a strategist who can survive this bloodbath. Who else has a vendetta against the dark mage? That would be a massive bonus. Listening to Lauren's endless yapping, Ian's mind wandered. Why was she even telling him this boring story? He didn't care. But then a chain quest popped up and those easy targets walked straight into his trap. Chain quest, the fallen ones. Hunt and crush the nobles. Serving the shadows. Rewards gold and mystery stat points. This loot was looking spicy. Still, he wasn't about to dive in blindly without a solid game plan. Strategizing. Ian finally spoke. I am a mercenary. We do not move for free talk. Can I assume? This is an official business proposal. Lauren jumped at the chance, replying. Absolutely, Ian. Given the high stakes and danger, I will make the payout worth your while. I can even grant you a noble title. But Ian shut that down before she could finish. The perks do not matter yet. We need to rework the contract. Specifically the part where I escort you. I am a magnet for trouble now, aren't I? Plus, to expose the dark mage, you have to infiltrate the royal capital directly. Dig deep there. But once you are inside, escaping won't be easy because the realm is mobilizing for war. Why don't we split up to hunt these traitors? You handle the palace. I will sweep the streets. Ian went silent, letting his words sink in. If she bites, he would be flying solo. Fine by him. The next quest targets were those dirty nobles, and he could solo them easily. No need to worry about outsiders targeting Lauren. As she weighed her options, Lauren voiced a doubt. But Ian, I need someone out here to verify the dark mage's threat. Remembering their guide, Ian countered. There are other mercs in our crew. Right, we have Mizu, Lauren realized. Well, take your time to decide, Ian advised. We are not in a rush. Lauren looked puzzled. I do not get you. I thought you would want to negotiate the payday first. Ian just smirked faintly and replied. Is that why you dangled a title in front of me? Yes, you could be a major player. In this kingdom, she urged. But the second Ian heard title, he immediately refused. I will pass. If you offered cold hard cash, maybe. But Ian had a secret reason. He already knew how this world ended. From saving a knight destined for madness, to slaying shadows, it was all just a grind toward the inevitable climax. I have to find whoever dragged me into this world and make them talk. Once he got answers, he would deliver a beatdown. To do that, survival was everything. No matter the cost, he would conquer it all. The next morning, the squad was geared up. Lauren took command. Everyone ready to move out. We are exiting this valley via Mizu's route, heading straight for the graveyard forest. Mizu, take point. She looked at their guide, while those two idiots kept stealing nervous glances at Ian, still cringing over yesterday's humiliation. Ian didn't notice. He was focused on the 2 stones in his palm, grinning. Got the essence at last. After purification, he was dying to test this power. Soon they hit the fringes of the Red Valley. That was when Philip started whining to Mizu. Mizu, what is this dump? What kind of guide are you? This trail is a nightmare for our horses. Mizu scratched his head, staring at the overgrown mess. It was not like this before. Then what changed? Philip snapped. Mizu hesitated. That was maybe 5 or 6 years back. Are you for real right now? Philip roared. Mizu pivoted, explaining it wasn't as deadly as the old days when goblins and ogres ruled this den. Ian's ears perked up. Goblins and ogres. Back then, they had stripped the land bare, leaving only giant trees. But now, the forest was a lush, eerie green. Ian snatched a falling leaf, watching it glow with a sinister purple mana. It is green because they cannot eat this anymore, he muttered. What? Philip asked. Ian looked at him. Remember those walking corpses? Monsters can turn too. The entire forest was rotting with dark energy. Something was very wrong. Ian briefed the squad while his mind raced, recalling the grim details from his earlier quest notification. This was the contaminated forest, a cursed hellscape fueled by the chaotic energy of the dark barrier. He couldn't pinpoint why the outskirts were rotting, but this decay ran deep. Philip stood beside him, reeling from the sheer weight of their reality, muttering, from graveyard woods to this toxic dump. What's next? We barely left the valley yesterday, and everything's already going south. Ian's voice turned sharp. Keep your eyes peeled. Any red flags, you shouted out instantly. You mean that freakish tree? Mizu asked, gesturing toward a gnarled shadow looming ahead. A twisted trunk bore blood-red fruit. Ian noted it, thinking, this one's a small fry compared to the last one. He broke the silence. Give that thing a wide berth. And if we don't, Mizu whispered. Ian flashed a chilling smirk. Be my guest. It's got a huge appetite for big guys like you. It's a freaking man-eater, Mizu yelled. Ian shrugged. Just don't crowd its personal space. Move it. Mizu crept forward, sweat beading on his brow. Right. Social distancing from the killer plant. Got it. The party treaded lightly, tiptoeing past the botanical nightmare, while keeping their weapons and eyes locked on it. Watching for the slightest twitch, Ian monitored from the rear. Nice and easy, stay sharp. But as the words left his lips, the crimson fruits atop the man-eater began to convulse violently. A thorny branch whipped out like a snake toward Ian's throat. He banked left, barely avoiding the strike. His horse wasn't so lucky. In a wet crunch, its head was snatched clean off. The sudden ambush sent the trio into a panic-stricken scream. Ian's jaw tightened as he hissed, "You overgrown weed. I literally just bought that horse yesterday." Meanwhile, the tree began retracting its gory prize. As the branch coiled back, Ian's fury hit a boiling point. His eyes ignited like twin high beams. Before he charged headlong into the fray. That was my ride, you're not going anywhere. He unleashed a brutal horizontal slash, severing the thick branch instantly. The mangled limb thudded to the dirt, giving Lauren's crew a front-row seat to the monstrosity. Philip gasped. Good heavens. The grotesque form of the predator left them paralyzed with dread. Shaking off the initial shock, Mizu snapped at Ian. You said we'd be safe if we stayed back. I was hopeful, Ian retorted. But apparently it's got sensitive ears. Guess I'll finally get some peace and quiet now. He pivoted toward Lauren. Since my horse's history, can you handle some of my gear? No problem, she replied, reaching for his packs. But the second she gripped the straps, agony flared through her left arm, forcing her to wince in pain. Ian's internal alarms went off immediately. You okay? He prodded. I'm fine, she blurted, clearly hiding something. Then she shifted gears. Ian, can you track down the source of this rot? He blinked. Are you for real right now? He stared at her mind, spinning. Why is she prioritizing this mission? When her brother is still in peril, whatever I was planning to investigate anyway. This path feels off. A toxic wasteland sitting right on the doorstep of the Hell Forest. That's way too convenient. It felt like a deliberate roadblock. Up ahead, the tension finally snapped. Mizu exploded in a rage. Are you kidding me? I signed up to guide, not to commit suicide. First the graveyard, now you want to dive deeper into this nightmare. Lauren kept her cool voice soft. I'm sorry for shifting the goalposts on you, Mizu. I'll double your pay when we finish. On my honor, I won't let a hair on your head be touched. The mention of a bonus flipped his switch instantly. Well, money talks, so what's the plan? Ian smirked. There's always a way through. We're heading straight into the heart of it. He triggered his clairvoyant magic detection. His sixth sense kicked in, amping his awareness to the max. A pulse of pure energy rippled outward from Ian, mapping the darkness for him. He saw everything. Stay on my heels, he commanded. As the squad pushed forward, they watched in awe as he effortlessly shredded any man-eater that dared to twitch. But then, everything stopped. Ian halts mid-step after felling the man-eating tree. Mizu trailing right behind him, locks onto the disturbance. Something's coming. Ian mutters, his gaze turning razor-sharp. As they stare, a nightmare unfolds, hordes of undead elves and goblins clawing from the earth. Philip and Mizu freeze in sheer terror, gasping out. Undead mutants, Ian grits his teeth, drawing his steel. Rotting abominations, but just as lethal. As he readies for combat, Lauren steps up. Stand back, I got this. Her body ignites in pale blue mana. Ian instantly sheathes his blade. About time for that flex, Ian smirks. Suddenly the horde stampedes. In a mindless frenzy, Lauren screams, hit the dirt. They drop low, bracing for her onslaught. Lauren swings her blade, unleashing a crescent of blinding holy light. The undead horde is instantly obliterated, mowed down like weeds. Ian stands in awe. Holy arts destroy dark taint effortlessly. I'll handle the rest. The tide turns. Lauren's aura suddenly flickers violently, her body rejecting the holy magic. She coughs up crimson, collapsing instantly. Philip lunges to her side in a panic. My lady, what's wrong? Ian spins around as she hits the ground, his mind racing. Great solo run it is. He stands tall, Mizu. Secure the horse and dump all the oil on me. Mizu rushes to comply, setting 4 oil pouches at Ian's feet. Ian narrows his eyes. You aren't planning to. Ian cuts him off, turning away. Pass the torch back up, Philip. Stay sharp and safe. But what about you? Mizu pleads. Ian slings the oil. I'm diving deep into the core. Mizu gasps. Solo. Into the core. Don't make me spell it out. Ian snaps. Philip calls out weakly. Please, come back alive. Hearing him, Mizu echoes. Please come back safe, then retreats to Philip's side. Ian murmurs. Worry about yourselves. My focus is you two keeping her safe. He stores the oil. Saturating the torch in oil, it flares to life. Time to draw the aggro. Ian grips his blade, eyes locked ahead. Checking back. Hey Philip, snap out of it, man. We gotta guard her together. Stay sharp. Ian turns away, diving straight into the rising undead, blitzing them before they even rise. Closing in, Ian sneers. Where do you think you're going, trash? He cleaves through, sending a goblin zombie flying straight to oblivion. Its body slams into the horde, drawing every single undead eye straight to Ian. A sudden flash from above. A man-eating flora snaps to swallow Ian whole. Unique trait, focus activated. His trait flares, allowing Ian to sidestep the ambush effortlessly. You give 0 XP, get out my face. Ian unleashes a whirlwind of slashes, shredding the creeping tendrils and undead into minced meat. Clearing the fodder, Ian smirks toward the forest depth. That piss you off, didn't it? But hold your breath. I'm just warming up. Ian bolts into the abyss. Undead swarm at his back. He ignores the weak trash, refusing to waste precious seconds. They couldn't catch him, but soon trouble would strike. A colossal arm erupted from the earth, revealing a grotesque zombie that defined pure nightmare fuel. Seeing the path blocked, Ian didn't flinch, closing the distance with a few explosive high-speed bounds. He scaled the beast's putrid frame, effortlessly mocking it with a cold, "Shut it, you freak." Launching off the monster's skull, he gained massive air, soaring forward like a predator on the hunt. The titan had reflexes, though. Realizing its prey escaped, it whipped its head around with terrifying speed. It swung a massive fist, but luck favored Ian. The strike only shattered the torch in his grip. Sticking the landing, Ian smirked, realizing the stakes. Oh, so you're a named boss. Interesting. Torchless and in the dark, Ian suddenly froze. His unique sixth sense trait hummed to life. Activated. Heck yeah, totally forgot about this buff. Now, the darkness was no longer an obstacle. Target locked. He finally spotted the corruption's heart, that twisted parasitic ancient tree entity. Looming before him stood a gargantuan tree, its bark crawling with hundreds of eerie pulsating red fruits. Its sheer scale was disturbing. How much filth had this thing devoured to grow this monstrously large? It had clearly been gorging for ages. No matter. Time to stick to the script, he whispered. Let's see that essence in action. Ian reached for the purified energy he'd prepared for this moment. The crystal began feasting on Ian's mana, vacuuming his magic power like a high-voltage magnet. So that's the gimmick, Ian noted. Suddenly, his internal alarm bells rang with absolute certainty. Glancing up, he saw the predator strike. The man-eating flora had launched a snapping maw directly at him. Narrowly avoiding a lethal chomp, Ian leaped backward. He had to give it credit. That was close. The maw was massive, but it wasn't alone. Multiple heads began stirring, circling him like hungry wolves. Gritting his teeth, Ian bolted. The boss was relentless, giving him 0 room to breathe or strategize. The tree went for the kill, ordering every mouth to lunge simultaneously. Yet Ian's elite instincts held firm. Ian danced through the carnage. Sensing its maws weren't enough, the plant decided to escalate the fight. Thirsty for blood, it unleashed its roots. Deep from the soil, a new threat began to emerge. Lethal wooden spikes erupted beneath his feet. Ian pushed his speed to the limit to avoid being impaled. Narrowly avoiding the skewers, he cursed under his breath. I could end this now, but patience first. Direct combat wasn't the play. Reaching into his inventory, Ian pulled out several heavy flasks of oil. Sprinting through the chaos, he doused the terrain, coating those snapping mouths in highly flammable liquid. Tossing the empty flasks, Ian prepared his trump card. It was time to bring the heat. The chemistry was lethal. A single spark transformed the oil-slicked vines into a raging infernal hellscape. The tentacles charred instantly. Agonizing high-pitched shrieks from the plant's many mouths filled the night air. Ian smirked with pure satisfaction. Classic strategy, nothing handles an overgrown weed better than a massive inferno. He sighed, wishing he'd checked the meta earlier. He'd wasted so many valuable points on useless magic. Studying gray magic felt like a scam now. He watched the ancient tree burn, grieving his lost potential. Suddenly, a memory surfaced. Wait, I've had a weird vibe about this place since the start. That intuition led his eyes upward. There it was, the hidden second weak point glowing through the smoke. A sinister purple light pulsed high on the trunk. You've got to be kidding me. That's way too high. Complaining aside, Ian charged. The sentient tree sensed his killing intent and prepared a desperate counter-defense. It unleashed a blinding torrent of freezing white mist. Ian braced himself as the fog engulfed him. Shielding his face, the sheer pressure of the blast sent him skidding back across the dirt. Capitalizing on the stun, the monster ordered its surviving maws to close the trap and finish him. Surrounded by monsters, Ian just grinned. He wasn't trapped, he was exactly where he wanted. Finally, I was wondering when you'd use that steam to douse the flames. That mist was a giveaway. It was the boss's ultimate defense mechanism, an emergency steam purge triggered only by intense fire damage. After dousing the fire, the tree always follows up with a massive multi-head area of effect sweep. But this move leaves the core wide open. Grinning, Ian channeled his mana into the essence. He unleashed the Crimson Magic Fire Breath. It is normally a close-quarters spell, but supercharging it with the essence, its destructive force, was about to reach a legendary tier. But then Ian's expression shattered. Wait, he gasped. Why is not the essence stabilizing? Something is wrong. It is a mana vacuum devouring my entire pool. This definitely was not in the game guide. As Ian panicked, a blinding radiance erupted from his palm. A massive pillar of inferno slammed into the tree, which echoed with a spine-chilling, blood-curdling shriek. The sheer recoil of the blast forced Ian to dig his heels in, desperately wrestling to keep his aim steady. The man-eating plant did not stand a chance. Caught in the center of that devastating blow, it was instantly vaporized. Ian collapsed, clutching his stinging face and groaning. Oh God, my eyes, I did not know it would drain mana like that. This essence is totally different from the game. Back then, I was stacked with holy relics and legendary magic armor. Did those high-tier items help me control this power? Lost in thought, Ian stared at the now faded essence and muttered, the mana density in this thing has plummeted compared to before. I could have used it another 50 times if I had slotted it into a proper weapon. He watched the fiercely incinerating tree and sighed. At least the fire is burning strong. Rest in peace now, you overgrown nightmare. Ian drew a blade to finish the job. Meanwhile, Tethin turned toward Mizu. Only a moment ago, they had witnessed a massive pillar of fire pierce the heavens from deep within the forest. He wondered aloud, what on earth just happened? That blaze is spreading, and he is definitely the culprit. As Mizu spoke, heavy footsteps approached from the shadows, causing the timid guy to spin around. Heart racing as he thought, who else is out here? Suddenly, Ian stepped through the brush. Relax, it is just me. Put that away. Mizu exhaled in relief and quickly checked on him. Ian, is that really you? Are you okay? Ian snapped back. Do I look okay? Find me something to wipe this filth off. He reflected on. That annoying tree. Seriously, who knew striking its vital spot would trigger such a berserk explosion? Its heads detonated instantly. He looked at Mizu with a warning. Stay alert. If things go south, you are on your own. Without another word, he marched toward the clearing where Lauren and Philip were waiting. Seeing him, Philip cried out, You are finally back. Ian ignored the greeting and asked, How is Lauren? I have never seen her like this. Philip looked on with deep worry. Lauren was completely drenched in cold sweat, and her breathing had become shallow and labored. After checking her symptoms, Philip voiced his grim theory. I think she has been poisoned. Ian paused, his mind racing as he processed the news. She is an apostle, so typical dark magic or toxins should not even touch her. A curse, Philip drew his blade, declaring with steel in his voice, Leave this to me. With this, she will be back on her feet. Ian's eyes widened. Wait, what exactly are you planning? Philip didn't hesitate. I'll cut the wound and drain the corruption. It's the only way. Her body needs to purge the poison. Trust me, I've done this a dozen times. Ian was floored. Medieval medicine was truly a nightmare. He palmed his face in disbelief. Stop right there. You'll end her life at this rate. Ian turned his focus to Lauren, his senses sharpening. A foul, sickening energy was radiating from her arm. Was this unholy magic? Ian barked at Philip. Strip the armor from her left arm now. Startled, Philip scrambled to unlatch the knight's gauntlet. As the metal came off, their breath hitched. Her skin had decayed into a ghastly, bruised purple, looking as if it were being eaten alive by rot. Philip let out a sharp gasp. By the gods, Ian's expression darkened. This miasma, it belongs to the headless horseman Dullahan. But it made no sense. How could an apostle like Lauren be consumed by this? It's pure insanity. A Dullahan shouldn't stand a chance against divine power. Ian's mind raced back to the church. He could invoke goddess Jusola, but that creepy priest was already watching him too closely. No way. Desperation left him no choice. Ian clasped his hands to pray, but then a sudden surge of data flooded his mind, catching him off guard. Absorb it. Wait, is this the curse of the swamp? He stared at the ring on his finger, his jaw dropping. It could actually devour the miasma. This hidden stat wasn't in any game guide. It made sense this relic came from the Dullahan. Of course it could consume its own energy. It wasn't craving holy light, it wanted demonic essence. A wicked grin spread across Ian's face. Philip pinned her arm down. Don't let her move. Yes, sir. But what's the plan? Philip asked, trembling. Healing her, Ian replied, peeling back his glove, to reveal a snake-shaped ring. Suddenly, the serpent twitched to life, slithering along his skin. The sight sent Philip stumbling back in a sheer panic, nearly tripping over his own feet. What is that thing? It's alive. Ian didn't even flinch. Relax. We're well acquainted. Philip's fear instantly turned to outrage. Are you serious? That's a literal monster. Only the damned deal with such beasts. You'll invite the wrath of the heavens. Ian was done. The temperature seemed to drop as Ian's eyes flashed with fury. Do I look like a sinner? Philip choked on his words, looking absolutely terrified. Well, I mean, technically no. Then shut it and hold her down. Utter one more word and you'll regret being born. Ian's growl was pure menace. Terrified, Philip gripped Lauren's arm as Ian moved in. In a flash, the serpent lunged, sinking its fangs deep into her flesh with terrifying precision. It began to feast, draining the corruption. Within seconds, the necrotic purple began to fade away. The healing was instantaneous. Philip watched in awe. The lady. She's actually recovering. The wound was sealing shut before his eyes. Meanwhile, the black snake began to pulse with power, its scales glowing with an eerie light. Philip's terror shifted into genuine wide-eyed wonder. This creature, it really saved her. He tentatively reached out, hoping to thank the little beast, but the snake's eyes flared crimson, snapping its jaws with a vicious hiss. Philip recoiled instantly. Hey, what's its problem? Ian just gave the snake a chilling, low-key threatening smile. You want to try that again? The serpent immediately wilted, bowing its head in a silent apology. It submissively coiled back around Ian's finger, turning back into cold, motionless silver. Philip watched the exchange still shaking. Are you positive that thing isn't going to eat us? Ian sighed. Taming a beast doesn't kill its nature, Philip. Much like you can't stop being annoying. Philip opened his mouth to protest, but found himself completely speechless at the sass. Dismissing the banter, Ian's tone turned ice cold. Now for the real work. Quiet down. And fetch me a blade, fresh bandages, and the strongest alcohol you have. Move. Ian's medical expertise worked wonders, and before long, Lauren's eyes slowly fluttered open. Relief washed over Ian and Philip instantly. You're finally awake. You saved me again, Ian, she sighed. Even after I turned my back on the corruption investigation, I still ended up in this pathetic state, Lauren muttered, staring at her scarred arm with a look of pure bitterness. Ian dropped a truth bomb without blinking. The one responsible is already dead. Lauren and Philip froze completely, blindsided. You already killed them, they gasped. Seconds later, Lauren regained her icy composure, her mind racing with new questions. So it's come to this. Ian, you realized the Headless Horseman's curse was eating me alive from the start, didn't you? Philip blinked in total confusion. Wait, since when? Meanwhile, Ian's expression shifted as he connected the pieces of a darker puzzle. Lauren, did that dark mage send you some kind of telepathic warning while you were unconscious? Ian asked pointedly. Lauren's face darkened as she recalled the chilling vision. It was strange. He only left me with a single ominous message. He warned that I'd overstepped my bounds, and anyone who aids me will pay a lethal price. Then he vanished. Crimson. He specifically mentioned that name, the one destined to suffer for standing by my side. That person must be a powerful mage. If we track them down, they might hold the key. Any leads, Ian? Ian flashed a cryptic smirk, while internally cursing the dark mage to hell. That bastard was always one step ahead. That son of a bitch is playing a dangerous game. Time flew, and by sunrise, Mizu reached the man-eating tree. He started shoveling dirt, unable to stop himself from grumbling about the manual labor. This was definitely not in his job description. This damn thing is already charcoal, he hissed. Hunting the mage was the priority, not playing gardener for a dead monster. Why am I the one? Stuck digging in the dirt at the crack of dawn, Ian. This is straight up disrespectful. Perched on a massive branch, Ian scoffed. Digging is your specialty, isn't it? Quit whining and put some muscle into it. Ian scanned the charred ruins, certain that a monster of this caliber was guarding some high-tier loot. Philip stared at the blackened trunk in awe. Sir Ian unleashed a literal inferno, yet the rest of the forest is untouched. Lauren, standing nearby, offered a grim explanation. That's the nature of an elven forest. They don't burn like ordinary woods. Ancient elven magic makes these trees nearly fireproof. It's why kingdoms once fought tooth and nail for this territory. Ian calculated the fire perfectly, knowing the forest would contain it. His tactical foresight is honestly on another level. Inside the hollowed trunk, Ian's eyes sparkled. He found it the seed of the ancient demon tree perfectly preserved. The system guide says, eat for a skill point, but that's a total trap. This item triggers a hidden legendary quest. I'm not falling for it, Ian muttered, tossing the dark seed into his inventory. One more piece of the puzzle secured. Suddenly, Mizu's blood-curdling scream echoed from the pit. Oh my god, Ian didn't hesitate and leaped down immediately. Lauren and Philip rushed to the edge, weapons ready. What happened? What did you find? Lauren demanded, her voice sharp. Look, Mizu stammered, pointing into the shadows. Tangled within the gnarly roots was a horrifying pile of human remains. Bleached skeletons lay discarded like trash. The tree's nutrients, Ian noted coldly. These poor souls were all ritual sacrifices. Mizu's face went pale with horror. Sacrifices? You're saying that mage fed living people to this thing just to grow it? Lauren's expression turned numb as the realization hit her like a physical blow. Human sacrifices, used as mere fertilizer. Her mind began to spiral into a dark place. If he doesn't return to the capital within the month, it's over. He was always so desperate to prove he was stronger than me. He can't be. No, that's impossible. It can't be him. Lauren's fists clenched until her knuckles turned white. The very air around her began to vibrate with a murderous aura. Damn it, Ian hissed, sensing her spiraling rage. He turned to Mizu, barking orders to dig faster and find the truth. The deeper they went, the more the nightmare unfolded. Philip's voice trembled as they uncovered even more bodies. Why are there so many? Was this entire demonic tree built on a foundation of human lives? The scale of this massacre is insane. If they're all sacrifices, then the missing Vernon might also be. Philip instantly froze, realization of his slip-up hitting him. He quickly covered his mouth, glancing nervously at Lauren. Lauren was already shaking, her eyes locked onto a specific corpse that bore a haunting resemblance to the missing Vernon. Panic flared in her chest. It's not him. He was a hero who crushed the darkness and its minions everywhere. A warrior like him wouldn't end up as food for some grotesque plant. But what if the unthinkable happened? What if he walked into a trap and was consumed before he even had a chance to draw his blade? If this is his fate, I'll burn everything to the ground for revenge. Her expression turned lethal, radiating a terrifying killing intent. The more I scan this scene, the more I'm convinced that guy wasn't the culprit. Hearing this, Philip, standing right behind him, gasped in disbelief. Hold up, are you saying the dark mage didn't butcher these innocent people? Is that for real? In response, Ian laid it out. He wouldn't operate like this, dark arts user or not. Sacrificing the living isn't his style, especially these guys. They look like Ondel City soldiers, who were likely guarding convicts. While speaking, Ian yanked a set of rusted iron manacles from the dirt. Philip's mind raced as he inspected them. That twin-horned crest and the peculiar engraving. They're definitely from the Ondel Standing Army. Suddenly realizing the gravity, he blurted, "You're right. This is the official Ondel infantry mark." He turned back to Ian, pressing for answers. Think about it. Why sacrifice these specific troops? Why target a dangerous military squad? Philip nodded. Good point. It doesn't add up. The logic finally reached Lauren, calming her nerves. Wait, so that means Varan isn't here. How pathetic, letting my imagination run wild like this. Nearby, Ian pressed on. Defeating that mage gave us our next lead. Remember what was etched into the headstone. The capital of Asianland, the domain of Marcus Burkhard Eldris. It might not be about the mage, but it's tied to these victims. I'm heading to Ondel myself to investigate. What's the play? Ian inquired. Lauren, finally composed, nodded firmly. Understood. I'm in. Overhearing their resolve, Philip's jaw dropped. Wait, for real, you're both diving straight into the next mission in that city. Tracking the killers and finding survivors is priority one, Lauren countered. Ian, eager to move, barked an order. She's down. Quit yapping and fetch the horses, Philip. If they can't run, I'll make you carry me there instead. Right away, sir, Philip chirped, glancing at Lauren. She was still fixated on the corpses, drowning in her own thoughts. Sensing her distress, Ian intervened. Night, Lauren, perhaps a prayer for the fallen. They deserve to cross over in peace. You're right. I'll handle it, Lauren said, her spirit lifting. She dropped to her knees and clasped her hands, offering a quiet plea for the dead. Watching her, Ian's mind clouded. Should I be glad she's this naive? Just moments ago, she was spiraling, convinced her brother was among the dead. This isn't her first breakdown. It'll keep happening until we finally hunt down that sorcerer. It's just a temporary fix. Let's hope the holy light keeps her grounded. There's no proof Varan is gone. So why do I have this sinking feeling? Meanwhile, Lauren's voice echoed softly, O God of light, receive these fallen souls and grant them eternal rest. As she prayed, blurry visions of her little brother flooded her mind. Varan, Varan, where are you hiding? In the vision, Varan turned with a defiant gaze. Sister, I'll prove I can best you and lead our clan. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Varan, stop. You don't need to prove anything. You're already amazing. Am I really? Sister Varan's voice was a chilling whisper. Yes, you are. Stop this. I don't know anything. I don't even know if you're still alive. Varan turned, fully revealing a face drenched in crimson. Lauren snapped awake, her hands trembling as she clutched her head. A dream that was way too vivid. Then she blinked. Wait, am I in a carriage? Up front, Ian noticed her stir, finally awake. How long was I out? And where did this ride come from? She asked. Ian could tell her memory was a total blank. He sighed, explaining the situation. Guess your brain pulled the plug, huh? While we were trekking, I decided we needed this abandoned carriage to make time. Lauren's memories began to resurface. Oh, that's right. My head was such a mess, I must have totally blacked out, she realized. Perfect timing, Ian added. We're pulling up to the graveyard forest. Wait already. Lauren bolted upright, scanning the horizon. She whirled around, shouting at Mizu, "Why didn't you wake me?" Mizu panicked, his eyes darting to Ian for help. Thankfully, Ian stepped in to save him. "I told him to let you sleep. You wouldn't have rested if you knew. If you're still drained, go back to sleep." Lauren blinked, stunned by his consideration. She let out a long sigh. "Fine. I'll let it slide this time." "What a drag," Ian muttered, his patience already wearing thin. Suddenly, the carriage jolted to a dead stop. "Wait, why'd we halt?" Mizu gasped. "The horse is paralyzed with fear," Ian stated. Lauren's eyes widened as she realized. "This corruption, it's the tainted forest." Ian nodded. "Welcome to demon territory." Ian's voice was ice. Philip shivered, asking, "The legendary cursed island here?" "Exactly. The shadow barrier's madness has warped everything. This land is pure poison. Nature's laws don't apply here. It's a twisted world of its own. No wonder survivors are a myth," Philip realized. "Once you enter, you're lost forever." Lauren turned to Mizu, her tone sharp. "Ditch the heavy luggage. Now. Essentials only." Mizu's voice trembled. "Wait, you mean we're actually going in?" "There's no turning back," she whined. Ian just shrugged. "Chill. It'll be fine. The curse breaks when the dark sorcerer dies." Mizu shrieked. "That's literally insane." "You're the guide, right? Or should I end your contract now?" Ian threatened coldly. Mizu folded instantly. I meant that I'm totally ready for the danger, trust me." With gear packed and spirits high, they stepped toward the ominous graveyard forest. Philip was drenched in cold sweat. "I thought I was ready, but this is terrifying." Mizu opened her mouth to suggest a tactical retreat for the whole group. Ian cut her off. "Ready. Once we step through, there's no way out." "Understood," Lauren replied firmly. Suddenly Ian's eyes ignited with a piercing blue glow. His perception skill was active. In the darkness, a massive shadow loomed ahead. "It knows we're here," Ian muttered. "But it doesn't change a damn thing. Get ready to host us. I've been dying to see your ugly face. You'll pay for blocking my path and stealing my XP." Ian's blood began to pump. The group ventured deeper. Philip was shaking like a leaf with every step. "Are we actually on the right path?" he stuttered. Ian let out an annoyed sigh. "Ask me one more time," Ian growled. Philip winced, regretting his big mouth. He cursed his past self. "Why did I brag about the Dark Witch being here?" Ian had laughed at him then. "Just admit you're scared." But Philip's pride had flared up. "Scared, please, I'll lead the way." Now he was stuck at the very front. "I can't believe he actually let me lead." Philip panicked, sweat pouring down his face. He glanced at Lauren. The holy night felt intense, her aura sharp and unsettling. "Focus, Philip," he whispered. Behind him, Ian watched with a mischievous smirk. Suddenly, Ian's gaze sharpened. Something ahead felt fundamentally wrong and twisted. How was anything still alive? The corruption should have drained this land dry. Moments later, they pushed through a dense wall of eerie white mist. Philip collapsed, sobbing with relief. "We made it. Thank the goddess Risola." Mizu beamed beside him. "You actually did it. I thought you were a goner." Ian rolled his eyes at the duo. "Stop acting like clowns. This is only the start." He stared ahead, his pulse quickening. Finally, the gates to the underworld. A hauntingly beautiful tomb stood before them, shimmering with a dark elegance. They found a staircase plunging into the earth. "This is it," Lauren whispered. "I'm taking point," Ian announced. Mizu panicked. "Wait, diving in without a plan. You should have worried about that earlier," Ian snapped. "Now move it. Follow me." They descended into the abyss, following Ian down a never-ending spiral staircase. They walked until their legs burned, yet the bottom was nowhere in sight. "Are we at the abyss yet?" Philip's voice echoed just as their boots finally hit the terminal floor. A massive hollow void stretched before them. The suffocating, pitch-black silence made Philip feel like the walls were closing in. "Wait, Ian," Lauren's sharp command cut the air. "We can't proceed without offering a prayer first." Ian paused, his brow furrowing with suspicion. Problem. The moment we stepped inside, the Holy Seal's resonance began to flicker. Sensing his confusion, she clarified that apostles use the Holy Seal to synchronize with their deity and channel divine grace. However, her explanation only served to ignite a cold, simmering fury within Ian's chest. "Are you serious? That's just a slave contract," he spat internally. "In this twisted world, I can't even trust the gods." Suppressing his irritation, he exhaled sharply. "Fine, do your prayer." Lauren gave a stiff nod in response. She unsheathed her blade and drove it violently into the stone floor. Suddenly, a flicker of ghostly azure light appeared. Shimmering holy energy began to radiate from her form as the others stood guard, waiting for her ritual to conclude. Mizu scanned the empty darkness, looking perplexed. Why is it so empty here? What gives?" Philip asked from the side. Mizu whispered back. "This place is called the Graveyard Forest. Legend says hundreds of corpses are rotting beneath our feet. Do you see any? Because I don't." Ian smirked. "Are you really asking that? I guess you're about to find out." This guy has been setting the stage since we arrived. Ian's eyes suddenly flared with a predatory, glowing perception. While his skills surged to life, Philip and Mizu just stood there, completely clueless about the danger lurking in the dark. Suddenly, a heavy grinding roar echoed behind them. The two cowards spun around, seeing the massive stone door they entered through. It was sealing shut. The gate! We're trapped, they shrieked, scrambling toward the exit in a total state of panic. As they slammed their hands against the stone, glowing cryptic symbols began to etch themselves across the upper frame. It wasn't just the door. The entire perimeter was being covered in these strange ancient characters flickering with light. Philip hoisted his torch high, trying to make sense of the glowing script. Is this some kind of dead language? Up ahead, Ian didn't even look back, as he began to explain the situation to his terrified teammates. It's a magic circuit. The graveyard's defense system is officially online. Like I said, the real party is just starting. Right on cue, rhythmic, bone-chilling footsteps began to thud from the darkness ahead of the group. Hundreds of glowing, hateful eyes ignited in the shadows as a massive skeleton legion marched into the dim light. A sea of white bone advanced slowly, their numbers easily reaching into the hundreds as they surrounded the party. Despite being stared down by a literal army of the dead, Ian didn't show even a flicker of fear. He summoned a heavy iron mace from his inventory. Talk about a loud way to say you're a necromancer, he scoffed. The way Ian pulled a massive weapon out of thin air left Philip and Mizu completely stunned. Where did that come from? While they questioned their own eyes, the undead horde closed in. Ian's voice boomed with authority. Protect the night. He didn't wait for them. Ian lunged forward, diving headfirst into the center of the skeletal swarm to seize the initiative. Wait, are you insane? You're going solo? The duo screamed as Ian disappeared into the sea of white bone. Ian was already a whirlwind of violence, his mace shattering a skeleton's skull into a million pieces on impact. The rest of the horde swarmed him instantly. Ian just smirked. Magic shield, he shouted, activating his low-level magic. The skill erupted in a violent shockwave, blasting the surrounding skeletons back like they were made of dry autumn leaves. But he wasn't finished. He invoked another spell, Blade of the Wind God, enchanting his mace with razor-sharp gale energy. One massive swing carved through 3 skeletons simultaneously. Not bad. This has a nice weight to it. So this is the feeling of using Wind God magic with a blunt weapon, Ian chuckled, satisfied with the carnage. He was a one-man wrecking crew, pulverizing the ancient bones into dust with every single effortless strike. Suddenly, Ian sensed a presence. One skeleton was watching him too intently. A dark mage was clearly scouting through its eyes. Still hiding in the shadows like a rat, I see, Ian muttered. He glanced back at the praying Lauren. She's not done yet. If this keeps up, one of these idiots is going to get themselves killed. I need to be the ultimate distraction. Ian gripped his mace, a wicked, taunting grin spreading across his face. Hey cowards, watch closely. I'm about to turn every single one of your little bone toys into scrap metal. The taunt drove the hidden sorcerer into a frenzy. Through the skeleton, a raspy, furious voice cursed, "Damn you, Grimson." Enraged by the disrespect, the mage commanded the entire legion to charge forward and tear Ian limb from limb. Seeing the chaos, Ian didn't flinch. He actually grinned. Thanks for losing your cool, pal. Let's see who breaks first. Just like that, Ian plunged headfirst into a solo war against the skeletal swarm. Watching Ian face the horde alone made Philip's heart race. He turned to Mizu, desperation in his eyes. We have to help him. There are too many. But Mizu snapped back. Did you already forget his orders? Our job is to protect her. Just then, Lauren's prayer ended as her voice echoed Philip Mizu move. Clear a path, she roared, charging ahead. Ian heads up. Ian dove aside just in time, letting the girl unleash her divine fury upon the undead. Suddenly, Lauren shifted her grip on the blade. Instead of the hilt, she grabbed the steel itself, turning the pommel into a massive, lethal hammer. With one explosive swing, she pulverized a dozen skeletons into clouds of fine bone dust. She didn't stop there. 2 more brutal strikes sent rib cages raining down like a storm of white hailstones. Even Ian was stunned. Man, watching her fight really makes me feel like a total side character. But I'm not just a spectator. Ian lunged forward, obliterating a zombie creeping toward Lauren's blind spot. Their eyes met for a split second. No words were needed, just a shared nod of pure battle instinct. What followed was a masterclass in teamwork, as the two moved in perfect, deadly harmony. Together, their combat power went off the charts, leaving Philip standing there absolutely jaw-dropped. Don't just stand there. Keep up, Mizu screamed. I'm coming, Philip scrambled after them. The massacre raged on, but the toll was heavy. Soon, Lauren's breath hitched, sweat pouring down her face. Ian noticed immediately. Her stamina. It's hitting 0 way faster than I expected. Something was wrong. Her holy energy was flickering. Was her divine link finally snapping? Meanwhile, Philip and Mizu were sprinting for their lives until they hit a literal stone wall. A dead end. Are you kidding me right now? Philip's voice cracked in pure, unadulterated terror. Behind them, Ian felt a chill. His senses flared as he noticed the ancient carvings nearby. Magic is surging through these runes, he muttered. The very stone seemed to be breathing. Suddenly, the entire wall ignited with an eerie glow. Mizu gasped. Now, what? What's happening? The answer was gruesome. The bone fragments scattered on the floor suddenly began to twitch and crawl. Like a magnet, the remains were being sucked toward a single dark corner of the corridor. From the shadows, a grotesque, slimy nightmare emerged, its translucent body stuffed with human skulls. Ian's blood ran cold. An immortal watcher. The corpse-eating slime. It's already here. This is way ahead of schedule. Did it fuse faster because of all these extra bodies? Philip looked like he'd seen a ghost. What in the actual hell is that disgusting thing? It's hideous. Look out, it's coming, Philip shrieked as the massive blob lunged forward. Mizu's voice joined the panic. The path back is sealed. We're out of options. But just as despair set in the wall in front of them began to groan and sink. It's lowering. Look, there's an exit, Philip yelled, his hope briefly reigniting. But the words died in his throat when he saw what was waiting on the other side. A literal army of skeletons stood ready for blood. The group froze in absolute horror. You've got to be joking. What is this? Even Ian felt the pressure mounting. These belong on a lower floor. Someone really went to a lot of trouble for me. This is bad. We're caught in a monster sandwich. That's when Lauren spoke up. I have to kill that giant slime. It's the only way. Ian quickly shook his head. No, just hold it back. I'll carve us an escape route. Got it. Without another word, the duo split. Ian dove into the skeletons while Lauren faced the slime. As steel met bone, a worried Mizu grabbed Philip. Don't stop, keep moving forward. But every time Ian shattered a foe, the bone shards flew straight into the slime's body. It was exactly like the game mechanics. The creature was absorbing the debris to grow stronger. That's definitely the battery for this endless power. Ian grunted eyes, scanning the battlefield for an opening. Everything's holding steady. A few hiccups, sure, but if we keep this pace up, the mission stays on track. But just as confidence peaked, the vibe shifted instantly. Ian's pupils shrunk, as a ghastly silhouette hovered above the chaos. Damn it. What's that freak doing in the air? A shriveled, husk-like nightmare known as a lake wraith. These foul spirits haunt the water's edge, luring men to their doom to feast on their souls, while drowning women to hijack their cold, empty vessels. Ian gnashed his teeth in frustration. This wasn't on the map. Is that necromancer pulling its strings too? The lake wraith suddenly gripped its skull, unleashing a surge of dark, pulsating energy. Blinding arcs of light erupted from the creature, slamming into the mindless skeletons below, causing them to evolve into heavy-plated warriors. With a roar, the metal-clad undead lunged at Ian, with terrifying supernatural speed. They're moving way too fast, he realized. Ian effortlessly pulverized the lead attacker. Move it or lose it, he roared then. Blitzed straight for the lake wraith, swatting aside any bonehead dumb enough to cross his path. Eat this, you freak, Ian bellowed, swinging his heavy mace in a bone-crushing arc. But the wraith effortlessly drifted out of range, pivoting midair to dive-bomb Philip and Mizu instead. The skeletal nightmare let out a piercing, otherworldly shriek. Ian's instincts screamed the lake wraith was prepping a devastating gale. A lethal shockwave designed to shatter bodies and trap minds in eternal terror. Ian's tactical brain went into overdrive. If I don't disrupt that casting immediately, Philip and Mizu are toasted. He pivoted, screaming, "You two cover your ears, right now." In a flash, Ian channeled his mana, manifesting a swarm of roaring fireballs to shield his allies. Though confused, the pair followed orders and clamped their hands over their ears. The roar even distracted Lauren from her duel. Seeing his incendiary orbs fully charged, Ian shoved his palms forward, launching the projectiles like heat-seeking missiles through the air. The lake wraith stood no chance getting absolutely vaporized as it tanked the entire magical explosion. A soul-shredding screech filled the air. But Ian wasn't just playing defense. In that same breath, he'd peeled off 2 orbs to incinerate the slime creeping up on Philip and Mizu. As the smoke cleared, the duo gasped in shock. Unreal. He's a fire user. Is he actually? Save the fangirling for later, Ian snapped. We're in a literal deathmatch here. Lock in, we aren't safe yet. He then pivoted, resuming his brutal dance with the skeletal horde. While Lauren kept the slimes busy, Ian finally felt his mana flow peak after those quick casts. The release felt invigorating. I was trying to stay low-key, he chuckled with a smirk. But man, that felt good. Since the secret's out, let's show them what real magic looks like. Ian summoned a ring of blazing infernos, unleashing a relentless storm of fire across the field. The skeletons never stood a ghost of a chance. They were reduced to ash before they could even get close. Lauren watched the display in awe. So that's the real Ian. It all makes sense now. He's no ordinary mage. That tactical brilliance, that icy composure, he's built differently. He's the legendary Crimson Mage I've been hunting, she realized before dashing after the elusive spirit fox. As the beast leaped for him, Lauren smirked. Wait, is he trying to bait death again? She coiled her strength and lunged her blade, whistling as it severed the monster's limb in one clean stroke. The beast roared in confusion. With the fox neutralized, she signaled her ally. Ian. Swamp Wraith is down, Ian nodded, his voice booming. Good, fall back and cover my 6. Things are about to get messy at the crossroad ahead. A crossroad. On it, she replied, though a doubt lingered. He talks like he's already cleared this dungeon. Is this some crazy foresight skill? Her thoughts were cut short as a headless body came into view. Her hands began to shake as she reached for the remains. No, this armor. That's a Royal Army uniform. Could her fears be real? Lauren frantically searched the corpse for a nameplate. Knight Charles Castle. It wasn't her brother. Lauren, over here, she shouted, realizing the soldier wasn't Vernon. A wave of relief washed over her. Haha, it's not Vernon, thank the heavens. Suddenly, the essence in her chest pulsed with corrupted, jagged energy. This power, it is tainted. It felt wrong, different from the dark mage's foul magic. This belonged to someone else entirely. The mana's pulse thrummed from the left. Is it calling to me? Lauren wondered, turning toward the vibration. Before she could process it, Ian's desperate roar shattered the silence. Lauren, watch your back, he screamed in warning. She spun around instantly, but it was already too late for a clean escape. The bone-chilling, corpse-eating slime loomed over her. Its massive skeletal body slammed into Lauren, sending her flying. Philip and Mizu gasped, rushing to her side. Milady, are you okay, God? You are bleeding again? Ian's voice cracked like a whip again. What are you doing? Get over here now. Hurry, move it, Ian barked, but fate was faster than their feet. A massive wall pulverized the path between them, trapping Lauren. Damn it, Ian growled in frustration. She didn't make the gap. The dungeon split them up just as he feared. No other choice now. The dark mage has to go down first. Only then can I save them. Ian faced the skeletons. Across the rubble, Mizu screamed, Blast! This separation magic. We are completely cut off from the captain. Philip trembled beside her, his voice shaking. What do we do now? We're all alone. There was no time for fear. The slime monster was charging again. Behind us, it is coming back. Lauren felt that eerie mana call again, pulling at her soul. I guess this is the only way. She had to focus. Getting Philip and Mizu out alive was her only priority in this nightmare. Lauren hauled herself up. I will carve a path. Stay close. She charged straight toward the source. Philip and Mizu scrambled after her as she dived headfirst into the danger zone. After slashing through a wall of skeletons, the trio burst into a massive, eerie chamber. They froze. Rows upon rows of skeletons stood in perfect, terrifying silence along the walls. Not a single bone moved. Philip stammered. What is this? Why are they not attacking us? Every skeleton bowed their heads in unison. A cold voice echoed from the shadows. Stand back. You have arrived, Apostle Lauren. Or should I say, Sister Mizu gasped. Who is there? Philip's face drained of all color as he recognized the tone. Wait, that voice. Lauren looked like she had seen a ghost. Her eyes went wide. No way. Vernon, why you? The figure remained stone-cold silent, the metallic slide of his visor closing with a final chilling click. With a violent clang, he lunged forward, his blade screaming straight toward Lauren's neck. She barely parried the strike. Why are you here? Why are you doing this? She cried out. A flicker of madness danced in his eyes. Can you not see, sister? I will finally surpass you. He threw his weight into the blade, driving Lauren back. I will even kill you. Back with Ian, he swiped away a skeleton's blade. You guys are a real pain. Take this. He tossed his weapon and sprinted ahead, leaving the undead behind to find the knight statue. Found it. The release trigger. Ian's boots crunched the ground as he built up explosive momentum. He soared into the air, launching himself like a projectile toward the massive stone monument. He landed on the hilt of the giant sword, driving the stone blade downward with force. A hidden stairwell groaned open within the room. There it is. The secret passage, Ian smirked. This was meant to be the exit after the boss. A total pro-gamer move. Since I have the cheat codes, I can skip the Death Knight entirely. Skeletons closed in, but Ian just grinned at the horde. Want me to go? My absolute pleasure. I can bypass that Death Knight without a brawl, Ian mused. But as he weighed his options, a skeletal wall suddenly boxed him in. Ian didn't flinch, he just smirked. Oh, you want me inside, say less? I'll gladly oblige. Ian plunged into the hidden abyss, bracing himself against the narrow walls. He erupted before a lost temple, a sanctuary hidden even from Aslan's legendary king. Within this tomb, ancient fairies once whispered prayers to the god of death. Ian touched down with predatory grace. Across the chamber, a dark mage loomed. Lounging on a stone throne, he sneered. Welcome to my kingdom. You've come too far. In this demonic abyss, my power is absolute. Prepare for a slow, agonizing end. Mid-villain monologue, Ian silenced him with a devastating blast of hellfire. Infusing the flames with purified essence, Ian spat, You talk too much. Haven't you learned your lesson yet? Ian mused, noting the essence wasn't draining his mana. If I pace this right, I won't hit that massive mana drain like last time. The smoke cleared to reveal the dark mage unhinged and trembling with pure rage. You brat, he shrieked, shattering the stone debris, pinning him down with raw force. His true form emerged, a twisted human-like abomination sprouting 6 grotesque arms. Ian blinked. What kind of freak show is this? Then a smirk tugged his lips. He's a total mid compared to the game version. Quit yapping, Ian provoked. You haven't even hit your final form yet. Show me what you've actually got. You arrogant insect, the mage roared, unleashing a wave of suffocating dark energy. His scepter flared with unholy light. Rise, ancient spirits. Obey your master. A sea of skeletons clawed out of the void. The mage began his lecture. You used a relic to cheat your way through blood magic before, but now, you're empty-handed. Without that crutch, I'll show you the true meaning of despair in my domain. He unleashed a swarm of shrieking wraiths that tore across the chamber toward Ian. Skeletons closed in from every side. The mage cackled, convinced he'd already won. Paralyzed by fear, he mocked, but his victory lap lasted barely 3 seconds. With a thunderous stomp, Ian vaulted 10 meters skyward, soaring over the skeletal trap. The mage's jaw hit the floor. Impossible. How did he move like that? High above Ian, conjured fireballs, but these were on a whole different level of power. First time using this skill, and it's already level 2. This is almost too easy. Accuracy doesn't even matter when the floor is crawling with targets. Ian looked down. Above the swarm, the ceiling ignited. This was the legendary red blood magic, Fire Rain. Under the skeleton's hollow gazes, a literal apocalypse of fire began to pour down. Each blazing orb vaporized dozens of undead. The dark mage watched his army vanish. No way, he bellowed. How is a starter skill doing this much damage? Panic-stricken, he swung his scepter, weaving an arc of light into a phantom shield. Gotcha, he screamed. You're a sitting duck while you're still in the air. Ian just smirked, detonating a concentrated flame in his palm to propel himself. Using the explosive recoil, Ian danced around the shadow shield. The mage froze. His eyes nearly bulged out. This madman was literally maneuvering mid-air using explosions. Ian bypassed the shield, swapped his magic to wind, and gripped a heavy mace. Cloaked in gale force winds, Ian accelerated like a heat-seeking missile toward the mage. The bald mage gnashed his teeth desperately, raising his staff to tank the hit. But a squishy wizard stood no chance against a physical powerhouse like Ian. With one brutal swing, Ian's mace tore through the man's defenses, severing both arms. A blood-curdling shriek filled the air. Ian just clicked his tongue in pure disappointment. Is that it? He muttered, casually spinning his mace for the final blow. That skill is a real pain to master. I need to find a way to chain it with my other arts. Being a low-level character really limits my options. While Ian analyzed his combat data, the dark mage used shadow threads to seal his wounds, spitting out venomous curses. You brat, how are you using gray magic without a catalyst? You played me. Ian just chuckled, completely unfazed by the fury. Oh, you finally figured it out. I built this strategy specifically for you. The mage roared. Fine. You're actually a threat. Witness my ultimate form. His scepter began to scream with chaotic lightning. He slammed the staff toward the throne, triggering a dark, grotesque evolution. The shattered remains of Ian's earlier kills were sucked toward the seat. Meanwhile, Ian watched the boss transition with a bored look. Phase 2, come on, I'm waiting. A massive 15-foot skeletal mage soon towered over the arena. Ian smirked, licking his lips in anticipation. I guess that physical weakness isn't an issue anymore, huh? This boss's moves are getting harder to predict. But the mage was just getting started. Behold, the absolute power of the dark void, the monster bellowed. He raised his palm skyward as magical energy swirled into a screaming, tormented visage. The dark energy hummed with power as the technique reached full charge. He glared at Ian. I'll make you realize that death is the only mercy you deserve. He swung his arm, launching a soul cannon that tore through the very atmosphere. Ian barely sidestepped the lethal bolt. He's way too fast, he thought, amping his speed. But the attack wasn't finished. It was a homing nightmare that wouldn't let go. It swerved, chasing Ian like a cornered rat. The mage cackled. Run for your life. Ian's brow beaded with sweat, but he wasn't panicking. He was calculating. He's enjoying this too much. He's wide open. Time to bridge the gap. If I keep circling, he can't fire his main cannon again. Just a few more steps. The moment he pauses, he's dead. Ian tracked the mage's hands with predatory focus. Now, seeing the mage hit a cooldown, Ian surged forward like a bolt of lightning. He instantly triggered red blood magic fire dance as he entered strike range. He launched a barrage of fireballs toward the Titan's massive frame. However, the flames only singed the monster's ankles. The dark mage erupted in mocking laughter. Ha ha ha, what's this aiming for my feet? You've completely lost your nerve. It's over. He prepped his laser, but his giant body suddenly tilted off balance. The beam shot wild, scorching the ceiling. Bad aim, Ian asked with a cold grin. His essence crystal shattered into dust as Ian pulled off a high-speed slide. He zipped right between the Titan's legs. The mage spun around, screaming, die. But he froze halfway. His legs were fused to the floor. My feet, he shrieked. I can't move. Wait. Those fireballs were a trap to lock me in place. He turned back to Ian, his eyes wide with sudden realization and terror. Smart guy, but you're a sitting duck now. Time for a mid-tier masterclass. Ian's hand ignited with a violent crackling surge of violet lightning. The ultimate technique looked like something straight out of an Uchiha legend. The mage gasped gray magic. Without a relic, how is this even possible? Does it look like I care? Ian replied, his voice echoing with finality. Mid-tier red blood magic gray lightning chains. He slammed his hand down. Obsidian chains erupted, skewering the giant and surging with high-voltage death. That's what happens when you take a mid-tier hit. Total charred annihilation. At point-blank range, the dark mage was charred to a crisp, his flesh sizzling as thick smoke billowed from his face. Then that massive hulking frame began to crumble, disintegrating into nothingness right before Ian's eyes. Ian recoiled in disgust, backing away while muttering, "Ugh, talk about a nasty way to go." He brushed the lingering corpse dust off his clothes and turned to the dark mage, who was desperately clinging to his final breaths. With his strength fading, the villain wheezed out one last question. How? How could you possibly master another type of magic? 1 foot in the grave and you're still playing scholar, Ian scoffed, drawing his blade to end the man's misery. The dark mage began spitting curses at the heavens, raving about the abyss and the true nature of the origin. Ian stood there, listening to the man's desperate rambling, but he wasn't about to give this snake even a second to escape. He slammed his boot onto the man's chest, looking down coldly. Don't expect any pity or comfort from me. Even with an eternity, a pathetic loser like you would never have touched immortality. You're just a fool. Impossible, the mage shrieked, his eyes widening in pure horror as he realized Ian actually knew his true name. He turned his head, gasping out, How? How do you know who I am? But the question was cut short. Ian swung his blade in a silver arc, sending the man's head spinning through the air. You talk too much. You wouldn't get it even if I told you, Ian sighed, but suddenly a searing wave of agony washed over him. Damn, I pushed my mana way too far again, he hissed. One more spell and I'm definitely blacking out. With his head throbbing, he glanced at the severed trophy on the floor. Time to collect the loot. He decided to claim the staff and keep the head as proof of the kill slowly approaching the mangled remains. Suddenly, an eerie violet light exploded from the corpse's hollow eyes, catching Ian completely off guard. That swirling purple energy began to twist and mold itself into the spectral image of the fallen mage. Ian froze. Is that his soul? You've got to be kidding me. A hidden third phase? This isn't how the game went, he muttered, as the spectral mage let out a blood-curdling roar and charged. Ian gritted his teeth, summoning a flickering fireball in his palm. Damn it, not now. But just as they were about to clash for a third time, the very fabric of reality began to warp. Jagged cracks splintered through the air behind the soul shattering open to reveal a terrifying dark dimension. The spectral mage froze in terror, but before it could even react, an invisible force began dragging it into the void. The spirit let out a wretched scream clawing at the air, but its desperate struggles were completely useless. In less than 2 seconds, the screaming ghost was swallowed whole by the swirling spatial rift. After devouring the soul, the rift slowly sealed itself shut, leaving Ian staring in stunned silence. What the hell was that? The void primordial chaos, Ian wondered, his mind racing through the possibilities. Those were the dark powers the fallen ones worshipped. In the game, this guy was obsessed with the void. Well, I guess he finally got what he wanted, Ian muttered, turning his attention to the glowing symbols on the walls. Wait, why are the magic circuits in this room still pulsing with life? Don't tell me this nightmare isn't over yet. Shaking off the dread, he pushed forward into the room below. In the heart of the lower chamber, he found a massive stone pedestal, with a mysterious sphere hovering above it. A hidden chamber behind the altar. This must be the junction where all the mana circuits meet. Then he spotted a journal. Seriously, this guy kept a research diary like some kind of obsessed maniac. There's bound to be some juicy secrets in here, he noted, tucking the book away for a later deep dive. Ian turned back to the glowing orb. Is this really the source of all the power in this place? I've never seen a core this massive before. It's the size of a damn basketball. It doesn't feel tainted at all. It's pure mana. It feels almost holy. What is this? It'd be a crime to just smash this. Can I handle the feedback if I touch it? He channeled a thin layer of mana into his fingertips and cautiously reached out to touch the shimmering surface. The moment his finger grazed it, a violent suction force yanked his entire arm deep into the sphere. Damn it, Ian roared, struggling to break free, but the orb exploded into a blinding white-hot flash of light. And when he finally managed to open his eyes, Ian's mind drifted aimlessly through the cosmos, suspended amidst a sea of infinite swirling planets. What's happening? Where the hell am I? This place. I don't recognize any of this. The void felt limitless. Suddenly, a massive black sphere appeared, veiled in flickering ribbons of blinding light. He gasped, heart racing. A black hole. Wait, no, I'm being sucked in. Ian's scream echoed through the vacuum. In a flash, his surroundings warped again. Huh. Now, what? Ian shouted, his head spinning from the shift. He scanned the area, and for a split second, a terrifying silhouette flickered at the edge of his vision. A colossal eye was fixed on him. Their gazes locked, paralyzing Ian as a deathly chill gripped his soul. Suddenly, his soul was slammed back into his physical form. Before he could even blink or process the trauma, violent nausea hit him like a truck. He gagged and heaved, the sounds of his struggle echoing in the silence. Struggling to breathe, Ian rasped, "Status." Open status. Instantly, a glowing holographic interface flickered into existence. Panicking, Ian frantically dumped every point into his mental fortitude stat, mashing the button like his life depended on it. As the numbers rose, the mental fog cleared. The overwhelming chaos receded, replaced by a sudden cooling wave of clarity. He exhaled sharply. I almost snapped. "What the hell did I just see?" Ian whispered, staring at his stats. Then it hit him. Damn it, 9 points, all in one go. He sighed, realizing there was no turning back now. I guess I'll need the extra willpower if things keep getting this crazy. Suddenly, a system alert chimed in his ear. Side quest, clear fragment of chaos. Objective: secure a shard from the primordial void of chaos. Reward shard of chaos. Ian blinked in confusion. A side quest? I don't remember agreeing to any of this. Reading the flavor text, he wondered. The void. Was that black hole? The source? Is that where this came from? If so, that massive eye. Was it an elder god? He shuddered, hoping his theory was just a reach. Did the warlock witness that too? No way he'd survive the encounter. Ian then reached out to claim his prize. An ethereal purple crystal materialized in his palm. So this is the shard of chaos, Ian muttered, mesmerized by its glow. A familiar vibration hummed within him, mirroring the unstable energy he'd felt from the earlier mass of pure chaos. A shocking realization hit him. Wait, chaos. Is this actually the legendary energy they talk about? He shook his head. No, that's crazy. Chaos energy is. He stopped mid-sentence as a strange sensation flared up. Two massive forces were colliding nearby. It was that unmistakable frequency of holy light, smashing against foul, corrupted magic. Don't tell me Lauren lost. Suddenly a vision from Lauren's past flickers, a group of maids whispering in the shadows. Did you hear Lady Lauren is the new apostle? I always knew she was destined for greatness. Her talent is insane. At this rate, she'll definitely be the next head of our entire clan. True, but what about young Master Vernon? He's also. Another maid quickly interrupted the conversation. Zip it, you want to get us killed. Unbeknownst to them, Vernon overheard everything while training just a few feet away. Lauren strolled up behind him with a warm smile. Vernon, you're really putting in the work today, aren't you? I've been looking for a challenge. It's been ages since we sparred, ready for a quick round. Cornered by his prodigy sister, Vernon forced a tight smile. Maybe some other time, sis. I'm not ready yet. That was then. Now the siblings are locked in a brutal life-or-death struggle, neither willing to back down. Was Lauren pulling her punches, or had Vernon truly surpassed her? Either way, he was currently crushing her defenses. With a devastating blow, Vernon sent Lauren reeling. Her helmet was ripped off, tumbling uselessly across the dirt. Philip and Mizu watched in horror. Is her divine power tapped out already? She's running on empty. She's barely holding on. Vernon let out a twisted, triumphant laugh. What's wrong, dear sister? Losing your touch? That was just a basic swing. Suddenly, Vernon's arrogant grin vanished, replaced by a look of pure shock. He felt it. The dark mage's life force had just snuffed out completely. Lauren watched, confused by his sudden hesitation. Vernon, she gasped. His expression turned grim. His energy, it's gone. Master has fallen, he muttered in disbelief. Philip shouted, Master, does he mean that creepy mage? Mizu's eyes widened as the realization finally dawned on her. The mage is dead, Lauren breathed heavily, a spark of hope igniting in her chest. Ian, you actually did it. She lowered her guard. It's over, Vernon. We don't have to do this anymore. Lauren dropped her blade, waiting for the bloodlust to finally drain from the air. Vernon, please, let's go home. Lauren's desperate plea filled the air, but hope was fading. Vernon's eyes were like ice. Look at me. There's no turning back for a monster like this. Stop talking nonsense. The savior is dead, but I'm far from being finished. I'll escape this abyss and reduce that pathetic kingdom to a pile of ash. I'll harvest every soul to grow stronger and rule this land through sheer terror, just like the demons beyond the wall. And that starts with ending you right here. He lunged at her with lethal intent only to be paralyzed by a sudden crushing force. Mizu and Philip gasped in disbelief. That light, its divine energy spreading everywhere. Look over there. Her powers have been fully restored. They watched the atmosphere shift instantly. A pillar of holy light erupted from Lauren, leaving even her stunned by the sudden transformation. This energy, it's overflowing, she whispered, while Vernon watched her terrifying aura surge. Vernon recoiled. So dear sister, your original divinity has finally awakened at long last. Perfect. This makes it a fair fight. The goddess of death is on my side now. This is our final showdown. Now show me everything you've got, Lauren. Shrouded in a sinister black aura, Vernon threw himself into the fray without a second thought. Vernon, stop, Lauren cried. Don't you see that this fighting is completely pointless? Her pleas fell on deaf ears as Vernon lunged forward, fueled by nothing but pure malice. Lauren gritted her teeth, finally striking back. Their powers collided in a devastating shockwave. Blood splattered across the ground as the onlookers screamed in absolute horror. Total shock. It was impossible. Yet she'd done it. The victory was hers. Lauren's blade had driven straight through Van Nong's chest. Joy was non-existent, replaced by hollow confusion. In that split second before the lethal impact, Van Nong had actually pulled his strike. He didn't swing. Not at the end, Lauren whispered, dazed. Then Van Nong's trembling voice broke the silence. I hesitated at the final blow. Pathetic, right? But, sis, I never truly hated you. Your kindness only made me feel smaller. I was trapped in my own head for so long. Everything I did was just so you'd finally see me. I still failed, didn't I? Hack wheeze, thick crimson blood sprayed from his lips as his life force flickered. Desperate, Lauren cried out his name. Van Nong slowly turned his fading gaze toward her. Even so, seeing your face one last time makes this worth it, he managed to choke out. With those final words, her brother breathed his last and slumped onto her shoulder. Forced to witness the horror, Lauren's mind went numb. Van Nong, please wake up, she pleaded. Watching her shatter, Mizu stepped forward, his heart heavy for the broken girl. He tried to offer comfort, but Lauren's soul-shattering scream cut through the air first. Suddenly, a violent explosion of holy energy erupted, a blinding pillar of light piercing the heavens. The shockwave cleared the debris instantly. Elsewhere, Ian felt the collision and sprinted like a madman. Damn it, I let that dark mage distract me. I didn't realize the command spell was shattered. That faint, lethal aura I sensed outside. The mid-boss, the Dark Knight, has appeared. Thinking this, Ian skidded to a violent halt. Reaching the knight's inner chamber, he saw Lauren suspended in midair, bathed in divine radiance. She clutched her brother's body within that holy pillar. This insane scene made it impossible for Ian's mind to keep up. What happened? Looking at that divine power, it seems Lauren won. Suddenly Philip's wail echoed nearby. Our poor master. Ian approached, demanding answers. Mizu jumped, startled by the protagonist's sudden grim arrival. Why are you here? Back at the center, the blinding holy eruption finally began to simmer. Lauren drifted back to Earth. She reached out gently, sliding the mask off to reveal her brother's face. Ian, you're here. Thank you, she murmured. I couldn't have done this without you. I have a purpose. What are you talking about? Ian asked, his brow furrowed in deep confusion. I found Van Nong, but a villain killed him and used his corpse like a puppet. Ian stood frozen. The mid-boss, the legendary Dark Knight, was her brother. He hadn't seen that coming. I begged the goddess. I screamed for her to save his soul, Lauren continued, voice turning cold. But she didn't answer. She's a judge of sin, not a savior. So I'll avenge him myself. I'll make them pay. A blood-red aura began to swirl around her. Ian's eyes narrowed. You're planning to slaughter everyone involved, aren't you? Yes, she replied icily. Silence hung heavy until Ian gripped his hilt. No, I won't let you drown in this hatred. As Ian unsheathed his blade, a low guttural growl escaped Lauren's throat. What are you doing? We have unfinished business. The quest for the ancient beast, Andal. Remember. Are you trying to break our contract now? Lauren spat. Ian shook his head. I have never once canceled a contract. Regardless of the client's drama, I don't quit. Not even once. Breaking deals requires a penalty. I can't let you leave alive without paying. So fight me. Would I have to fight you? Lauren asked in disbelief. It shouldn't be hard. If you're planning a massacre, just add me to the list or die trying. Both of you stop this madness, Philip cried, but Mizu instantly clamped a hand over his mouth. Zip it. Don't interfere. It's useless. Mizu watched as Lauren locked eyes with Ian. Her eyes flared with murderous rage. You really think you can end me? She hissed, drilling her gaze into Ian. Ian didn't even blink, meeting her intensity head-on. Finally, Lauren's shoulders slumped as she let out a heavy sigh. I've already suffered enough loss today, she whispered. I won't let another person die. The crimson mist swirling around her vanished. Ian, unfazed, looked at her. So, is our deal still on? The contract stands, Lauren clarified, but my blood feud, that's entirely separate. Ian shrugged. I'm not here to talk you out of vengeance, but do you honestly think you'll succeed? Lauren narrowed her eyes. Are you saying my plan is flawed or that I'm just too weak to pull it off alone? A bit of both, Ian replied bluntly. Lauren paused. And if you were to help me? Now that's a whole different conversation, Ian said, his voice cold. Let's take this outside. This isn't the place for this. The group filed out into the open air to escape the heavy tension inside the room. Lauren and Philip solemnly moved Van Nong's body into the car, while Ian and Mizu started cooking. Mizu broke the silence. That was gutsy, Ian. You handled her perfectly. Ian just raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Don't play dumb. She looked ready to rip your throat out, yet you didn't even flinch. You knew she was bluffing about killing you, right? Mizu teased. Ian's expression remained stone cold. Actually, no. Mizu nearly tripped. Wait, for real. You were actually being serious back there. Ian nodded slowly. Things got out of hand. I didn't expect it to escalate that far, he explained calmly. Inside, Ian's mind raced. I wasn't going to kill her. I just planned to take an arm to stop her rampage. If she'd gone full berserk, she might have forced my hand, and that would have ended in her death. But I wanted to avoid that. The shock when I drew my steel. She was just drowning in grief over her brother. In the end, I still couldn't prevent her transformation into an apostle of vengeance. His thoughts were interrupted as Lauren and Philip finished up and walked over. Is food ready yet? Philip asked obliviously. Mizu immediately shoved a meat skewer into his mouth. Shush and eat, she snapped, then turned to Lauren. Is everything taken care of? Lauren nodded. It's done. Thank you, Lauren added softly. Ian checked in on her. You holding up okay? Lauren looked confused. What? Ian sighed. Becoming an apostle of revenge changes a person. You won't be the same as before. He noticed her aura, the once pure blue divinity, had been stained a violent blood red. She's fully awakened now, just like the legendary character from the game. Lauren stared at her hands. The goddess only grants me power for one thing now, Lauren realized. Pure, unadulterated retribution. This raw power is stronger, but it's fueled by hate. If I turn a blind eye to injustice, it's gone. The old path of the light is dead to me. Those restrictions are finally gone. I'll do whatever it takes, she vowed, her voice steel. I don't regret walking this dark path. If that mage doesn't die by my hand, I'll never find peace. I've traded my soul for this chance. I chose my heart over justice. Just as the words left her lips, Ian casually tossed a heavy burlap sack toward her. Here, it's his head. Consider it yours. Our fated duel happened, and I made sure he didn't walk away from it. Lauren's hands trembled as she pulled the mage's severed head from the bag. She went deathly quiet. It was impossible to tell if she felt relief or just an empty void. Feeling the awkward vibes, Philip cleared his throat. So, did you blast him with magic or something? Took him long enough to ask, Ian thought. He looked over at Mizu, who looked just as annoyed. Ian looked Philip dead in the eye. Philip, here's some free advice. Try thinking before you speak. The dense warrior just tilted his head. Huh, what'd I do? Mizu realized Philip was completely clueless about how adventurers actually operate. He keeps his magic on the down low for a reason, genius, Mizu explained to the dense oaf. He only went all out because our lives were on the line. He saved us, Philip. We owe him our lives, so stop with the interrogation. Finally, the realization hit Philip. Philip sheepishly rubbed his neck, glancing at Ian with a regretful look. My bad, Ian, he muttered. And thanks. That secret stays buried with me, Philip vowed. Ian caught his eye, flashing a knowing wink. Fair enough. Lauren finally shook off her daze, her gaze locking onto our hero. Ian, she began, voice steadying. Taking down that mage earns you a massive bonus. Name your price. At those words, Ian paused. He had originally planned to loot everything, but their unexpected generosity was a total game changer. Better to save this favor for a rainy day. I will collect when the moment is right, he replied coolly. When the time is right, Lauren echoed. Suddenly, she reached for the blade sheathed at her hip, extending the weapon toward him. How about this instead? Philip's jaw dropped at the sight of the offering. No way, that is forged from Imperial meteorite steel, he barked. But Lauren did not even flinch. She kept her eyes on Ian. Accept it. You have more than earned this. Ian felt a bead of sweat roll down. A legendary gift. I did not see this coming, Ian cheered internally, gripping the hilt. I will put it to work. As his fingers closed around the grip, a blue system screen flickered. Sword of Retribution, unique rank. Skillbane of Shadows level 2. Cooldown 24 hours. The stats flashing before him were absolutely insane. Ian froze in shock. Wait, these stats and the name are totally different from the original game. It was actually buffed. Originally, you had to murder Lauren just to loot this legendary blade. Since it is untainted by blood, there is no debuff, only pure power. Absolute win. He looked back at Lauren. It has been my partner for years, she noted. It is nothing famous, but it will get the job done. Trust me, it is legendary, Ian smirked, unsheathing the cold steel. He gave it a sharp testing swing. The balance was perfect, though heavier than expected. He could not wield it with Lauren's grace yet, but mastery was only a matter of time. While he admired the craftsmanship, Lauren's expression turned serious. Ian, you are my representative now. Unravel the mysteries of the beasts of Great Andel for me. And above all, come back in one piece. Ian clicked the sword back into its scabbard. He shot her a confident grin. Worry about yourself first. Revenge is a dangerous game, so be careful. Keep your cards close. No killing, no reckless moves. Just wait until I return to your side. Lauren hesitated, the fire of vengeance clearly burning in her eyes. Ian knew he had to push harder. You cannot pay me if you are dead right, she sighed. Fine. No trouble until you are back. She sounded defeated, but the pact was made. Suddenly, Mizu cleared his throat to break the tension. Sensing the heavy air had lifted, he piped up, done with the emotional stuff. Good. We survived hell together, so let us celebrate. He fished a wooden wine cask out of his pack. A cheeky grin plastered on his face. Booze, Philip cheered. Ian blinked. He has been lugging that around. How is it not vinegar by now? Suspicious. Even the stoic Lauren seemed interested in the drink. I am no drinker, she admitted, but for this occasion I will make an exception. We earned it. Cannot say goodbye on an empty stomach, Mizu laughed. Ian felt a rare sense of true camaraderie. A toast to survival. The four comrades clinked their mugs, the sound of laughter echoing in the night. Fast forward a bit, the party had split. Ian sat alone, now casually sipping from a canteen. He scanned the pitch-black woods surrounding him. Midnight in the dead of the forest, he mused. Yet I can see every leaf as if it were noon. Is this the chaos fragment power? He was lost in thought, ignoring the fresh corpses cooling in pools of crimson right behind him. One survivor, face masked in gore, wheezed out a desperate question. How? How is this possible? That poison could drop an elephant. Why are you still standing? Ian did not even turn around. Is that right? He mused. The secret to his immunity was simple yet terrifying to his enemies. His level 3 poison resistance was a total cheat code, the same trick that saved him in Chapter 4. Ian loomed over the green-haired survivor. Stay back, the man shrieked, swinging his blade wildly. Pathetic. That kind of begging might work on a child, but Ian was a cold-blooded predator. Closing the distance in a flash, Ian's new blade sang through the air. The man's fate was sealed. He swung to parry, but his pupils shrunk in pure terror as the grim truth hit him. Fractures spider-webbed across his steel under Ian's overwhelming force. The blade reached its breaking point instantly. The metal shattered. Ian's strike sent him flying backward. Wait, just listen to me, he shrieked desperately. Before another word escaped, Ian ruthlessly drove his blade straight through the center of the man's palm. He howled like a dying animal. Ian glared coldly at the green-haired coward. Cut the crap, he barked. If you hunt others, you better be ready to become the prey. That's the price of admission. Sobbing, the man blurted out an excuse. It was just a sedative. I only wanted to knock you out. We just wanted your loot, nothing more. Ian's voice dropped to a chilling, deceptive whisper. Oh, really? He slowly twisted the embedded steel. A fresh wave of agony made the man's throat raw from screaming. While he gasped for air, Ian dumped the poisoned drink down his throat, forcing him to swallow it. Ian's gaze pierced through him. Just a sedative, huh? If you're telling the truth, this shouldn't be a problem. Since it won't kill you, bottoms up. The man's eyes filled with venomous hatred. You, monster. Death arrived instantly. Dark purple veins snaked across his face as the lethal poison began melting him inside. He hacked up a glob of dark blood before his body went limp. His treacherous life had finally ended. Sliding his blade back home, Ian sighed. Honesty would have bought you a much quicker, painless exit from this world. A sudden shriek pierced the air. Ian turned to see a bandit collapsing, freshly skewered by the hands of Philip. The guard stood over the body, shaking and gasping for air as reality set in. Masks finally off, Ian remarked. Philip turned his face, a mask of confusion and shock, as he questioned Ian. Why'd you leave me to fight alone? Ian's eyes remained cold. I warned you, the training wheels are officially off. Rewind to the forest edge where the group stood at a crossroads, ready to go their separate ways. They divided up. Following Lauren's persuasive lead, Ian agreed to take his report straight to the royal castle. That's when Lauren dropped the bomb, ordering Philip to accompany Ian. The guard's jaw hit the floor in shock. Ian is a critical witness, Lauren insisted. Walking into the lion's den solo is far too dangerous for him. Guard him with your life, and verify his story. You're his shadow now, Philip. Don't let him down. Philip's face fell. He desperately tried to dodge the assignment. But Lady Lauren, I need to protect you. Tough luck for the coward. Lauren already had her ace. Mizu is my shield. He'll keep me perfectly safe. Right, Mizu, with my life, Milady Mizu replied with a loyal, confident grin. I stared at the shaking guard, wondering if this dead weight was even worth the hassle of bringing along. Then again, an extra set of hands helps. Consider this their down payment on the massive debt they owe. Fine, having a personal errand boy isn't the worst thing, but I had to lay down some ground rules. I get the plan, but let's be real. The path ahead is paved with blood and certain danger. He might not make it back alive. Still want to go. The word death hit Philip like a truck. Philip turned white as a sheet, but Lauren just brushed it off. He's a trained guard, a noble warrior. She spoke of his determination, but Philip looked like he was about to burst into tears of pure regret. Master, you're joking, right? Noticing his soul leaving his body, Lauren stepped in with a gentle, supportive smile. She patted his shoulder reassuringly. Think of the growth, Philip. Ian will mold you into a legendary warrior. Loyalty will make a man out of you. Realizing his fate was sealed, Philip hung his head in defeat. Understood. Snap back. To now, Ian's voice was like ice. If you're tagging along, you need to evolve. Get strong or get buried. Despite his frigid tone, Ian felt a flicker of satisfaction at the kid's potential. The boy had raw talent hidden beneath the fear. Remember, you're the one who insisted on staying with them. That choice was yours. Philip stammered, his excuses dying in his throat as the harsh reality finally sunk in. Is this what the kingdom is really like? He whispered. Ian snapped at him. Quit your mumbling and focus. Patch yourself up. We move in 5. Ian tossed some bandages. Philip paused. Wait. What about the rest? Oh, right. The most crucial part of any victory. Ian's eyes glinted with greed. We're taking their loot. He gestured to the bodies. Wait, you're actually looting them, Philip shrieked, his moral compass spinning in circles. Ian smirked deviously at the question, his voice dropping to a chill. Let's just call it a transfer of ownership. You've witnessed this plenty at the border, haven't you? He paused, though something felt off about the situation. Despite Ian's logical reasoning, that privileged brat Philip couldn't help but lose his cool and start screaming. I should be back at the barracks by now. Isn't this just blatant theft masquerading as profit? This is totally wrong. Philip's outburst earned him nothing but a fresh, painful knot right on his forehead. Ultimately, he was forced to scavenge the corpses anyway. But once he snagged a pouch overflowing with silver, his hands suddenly blurred with speed. Ian watched, amused. Check out this kid looting like a professional. He looked absolutely thrilled, a far cry from that noble knight act he was putting on moments ago. Once the scavenging concluded, Philip's loadout received a massive glow-up. He scored a fresh belt, sturdy gloves, a sharp blade, and even reinforced boots. Fully geared up, the duo finally turned their attention to a shimmering treasure chest. One more prize, they muttered. As for Ian, he stared at the box. Memories flickered back to him as he inspected the lock. This chest was supposed to be impenetrable. Before the poisoned drink, Shama, those mercenaries mentioned they were delivering a high-priority cargo to a client in Rosa. He glanced at Philip, who was vibrating with anticipation. Am I the only one dying to see what's inside? Ian's mind raced. This feels like a hidden quest I somehow overlooked back in the game, he realized. Ideally, I'd wait for daylight, but this will have to suffice. With a sigh, Ian stepped toward the mysterious chest. I need my tools, Ian mused, reaching into his subspace to manifest several items from his digital inventory. Gripping a dagger, he signaled Philip to keep back. Ian then started surging raw mana into the blade. He drove the glowing knife directly into the pulsating crystal embedded in the center of the chest's lid. The gem exploded into shards. The lock clicked, the lid flew open, and to Ian's utter shock, two hands lunged out, slamming him into the dirt. The sheer suddenness of the assault left him reeling. Trapped beneath a dark silhouette, he squinted through the gloom to identify his mysterious and violent assailant. Before him stood a girl with sharp, pointed ears, shimmering platinum locks, and piercing crimson eyes. One word echoed in his mind: elf. However, as he focused on her gaze and those sharp features, he noticed the fangs. No way, this isn't an elf. His gut instinct was screaming that something was wrong. No elf possesses a maw that wide or rows of lethal fangs. Seeing Ian trapped, Philip charged in to help. Philip screamed as he rushed in, but Ian's reflexes were faster. He fought back with a single hand. Tearing himself away from the girl's iron grip, he instantly lashed out, swinging his short sword at her. But her teeth were like steel. The moment the blade approached, she snapped, her jaws shut with glee. The sword shattered instantly. Unfazed, she casually spat the jagged metal fragments onto the ground. Your skin smells divine. Ian finally connected the dots. Now I understand why the inventory failed earlier. I couldn't store the chest because of her. Subspace storage is strictly off-limits for any living entity. Studying her features, he realized she was the world's only vampire elf. This was a legendary rare spawn. This is the blood-starved elf Tesla, destined to devour Lord Lucas's blood and ascend as the future queen. She'll become the Blood Queen of the Shadow Kingdom, a pivotal boss character with world-ending potential. A sudden thought hit Ian. Did the vampires actually commission those mercenaries for this specific transport? I'm missing some intel, but one thing's certain, she's way more feral than the version I recall. Tesla turned to him purring. Since I've finally escaped that box, I'll spare your life as a thanks. Ian didn't flinch. If you're truly grateful, then do me a favor and crawl back into your coffin. Naturally, Tesla had no intention of complying. She began eyeing Ian like he was a 5-star gourmet meal. I'm starving, and you look delicious enough to devour. Whole Ian remained stoic, unsurprised by her bloodlust. Figures. He tightened his grip on the hilt, prepared to unsheath his blade for a life-or-death struggle. Tesla smirked at his defiance. Feisty, I'll let you slide today. We'll definitely be seeing each other again. Your scent is unforgettable. Don't you dare go dying before our next encounter. Little human. She vanished in a blur of speed. Ian exhaled sharply. Stunned, she actually retreated. Beside him, a bewildered Philip asked, Are we really just letting her walk away? Chasing her is pointless. Just as she promised she'll find us soon enough, Ian stated with icy composure. Trembling, Philip countered. That was no ordinary elf. Did we just unleash a literal demon upon the world? She would have broken out regardless. Those mercs were likely just waiting for dawn to make their move. To hunt her down, Ian muttered, dismissing the vampire-like girl. He then locked eyes with Philip. Ready the horses. Philip blinked in shock. Wait, what? We're just bailing after all that. Unless you want every beast in the forest smelling this blood and swarming us, we move now, Ian snapped. Philip knew he was right, but couldn't help grumbling. It hasn't even been 24 hours yet. First bloodthirsty mercs, now a cursed elf. At this rate, what kind of nightmare is coming next? My luck is absolutely cooked. Dear Lord, please don't let me die today, Philip began praying fervently. The scene shifts to the bustling city of Andel, within the Kingdom of Israel. Inside a rowdy local tavern, Ian and Philip stepped inside instantly, drawing the suspicious gazes of every cutthroat and drunk in the room. Feeling the heat, Philip leaned in. Ian, we need a table in the back. Too many eyes here. Why the shadows? Ian scoffed. Philip lowered his voice, his tone laced with genuine anxiety. Distance means safety if a brawl erupts. Have you forgotten how I nearly met my maker last time? Ian suppressed a smirk, noting his partner's growing caution. 2 weeks of roughing it had definitely changed him. He's toughened up, but he's still a total greenhorn. No one would ever peg him for a royal guard. Right, Philip scanned the room again, making sure no one was eavesdropping on their hushed conversation. So what's the move, he whispered. Ian raised an eyebrow. Why are you acting so suspicious? Someone might overhear, Philip hissed. Ian shrugged dismissively. Let them listen. Who cares? Blend in and you're invisible. Keep it simple. Philip nodded. Lesson learned, master. What could you possibly learn in a dump like this? Ian muttered, before finally addressing their objective. We wait and observe. If anyone starts sniffing around for a missing soldier, we'll have our answer. Just then, a waitress approached their table. What'll it be, food, drinks, or both? What's actually edible here? Ian asked. The girl smirked and began rattling off the daily specials. Our sausages are decent. Bread comes with a hearty stew if you're looking for a real fill. Place is crawling with mercs. Business must be booming. How does one score a high-tier contract around here? Ian slid a shimmering silver coin across the wood. Think of this as a down payment for info. The girl stared at the silver, breathless at his generosity. She didn't hesitate for a single second. Stashing the coin, she whispered, jump into a big contract too fast, and you'll end up dead. There are rules here. Start small unless you're looking for a mission so lethal that nobody else dares touch it. A job no one else dares to touch, Ian grinned. Perfect. That's precisely what we're looking for. Morning arrived, and the tavern doors swung open for a massive man who stumbled in looking heavily hungover. My brain is definitely paying for last night's ale, he groaned, rubbing his pounding temples. He paused, noticing a rowdy mob huddled together. What's the hype? Why is everyone crowded around? Curiosity won out as he rushed over. A blond man looked up with a devious grin. Oh, Patton. Just in time. I'm organizing a betting pool. Patton leaned in, his interest piqued. A bet. Listen up. 2 new guys showed up last night and headed straight for the ancient underground sewers. Those old goblin-built tunnels. You're joking. Patton looked bewildered. They actually went in there. That place is a literal trash heap. What could Patton stopped mid-sentence, his eyes going wide. Wait. No way. Don't tell me they're hunting that massive, 4-eyed crocodile lurking in the depths. Bingo. The tavern erupted in mocking laughter, everyone already envisioning the newcomer's gruesome demise. They were practically celebrating the failure. Patton shook his head. Just those 2, against that beast. So what are the stakes? The blond man grinned. Will they crawl back by midnight or not? If they survive, the winners split the pot. But if they don't show up by the deadline, the losers buy the whole house a round of drinks. Patton went quiet, weighing the deadly odds. The blond man's voice cut through the air once more. What's with the hesitation? If you're in, drop your bet. Patton didn't blink. He threw his pride into the ring and said, I'm in. My gold says they're coming back. The crowd erupted at Patton's wager. Are you insane, Patton? You really think those 2 can survive that hell? Either I hit the jackpot, or I'm buying a round for the house. It's a win-win for me. He slammed a silver coin onto the table. The blond man snatched it instantly, his eyes gleaming with greed. Now that's a man with guts, he laughed. Meanwhile, another mercenary leaned in with a skeptical grin. Why waste your money? You think those rookies are on our level? Patton just smirked. You're clueless, man. Worry about your own hustle. Those guys, they're built different. Suddenly, a low rumbling began to shake the floor. The lively chatter died instantly as the room started to hum. Everyone froze, wondering what monster was waking up. Patton dropped to the ground, pressing his ear to the wood. The vibrations. They're coming from deep below us. The bald mercenary broke into a cold sweat. Don't tell me it's them. What on earth are they doing down there? Before he could finish, the tremors intensified into a violent quake. The entire diner felt like it was about to collapse. Men dove for cover, shielding their heads as they waited for the chaos to pass. Then the world went silent. As the dust settled, the heavy thud of rhythmic footsteps echoed from outside, making hearts hammer in chests. Patton's eyes widened. That sound. Could it really be? Just then, Ian and Philip kicked open the doors. Both were drenched in filth, hauling a massive weight. Ian slammed the mangled corpse of a 4-eyed crocodile down. The room went cold. Get the authorities, Ian commanded. The pest control is finished. The waitress stood there, paralyzed. Philip stepped up behind him, his gaze sharp and impatient. Hey, did you lose your hearing or something? Get a captain or a soldier here now. Move it, he roared, snapping everyone back to their senses. Soon soldiers arrived to haul the monstrous carcass away, but the shockwaves of their achievement were just beginning. Whispers spread like wildfire. They actually bagged a sewer croc. That's freaking legendary. How did they do it? Did they smoke it out? Nah, I heard they just used a hammer and wrecked the entire basement floor. Back at the table, a stunned soldier approached. Is it true? You 2 really took down that beast alone? Ian wiped the grime from his face. Yeah, but the sewers took a hit. You'll need a construction crew. Understood. Your bounty will be processed within 3 days, the captain replied, with a look of pure shock. The soldiers hurried out, leaving the 2 warriors behind. Ian looked at his ruined gear and let out a curse. Damn it, I've scrubbed myself 3 times and changed, but I still smell like a sewer pipe. I hope my clean clothes don't get contaminated. Man, what I wouldn't give for some actual soap right now. Philip sat there looking like his soul had left his body. Once was enough. I am never doing that again. Facts, Ian muttered. Philip scanned the room, noticing the heavy silence falling over the other mercenaries. Check it out. The vibes in here completely shifted. Ian didn't even look up. Strength is the only currency here. They know better than to look down on us now. Suddenly, a boisterous voice cut through their brooding. There are the legends. Thanks to you two, I just secured the bag I'm set for 2 months. It was Patton grinning ear to ear. He turned to the waitress with a flourish. Yo, sweetheart. Bring my 2 brothers here, the best feast you've got. Now mind if we have a little chat. Ian's expression remained icy. If you've got something to say, get to the point. We don't do small talk. Patton chuckled unfazed. Sharp skills and a sharper tongue. I like you guys. The name's Patton. The duo gave him the bare minimum. I'm Ian, the swordsman grunted. And I'm Philip, the other added. Patton leaned in his eyes, searching. Talent like yours doesn't just appear. Where exactly did you guys spawn from? The mountains, Ian answered shortly. Patton's smile didn't waver. Keeping it mysterious, huh? I can respect that. But where did you build that reputation? You must have been big shots somewhere before coming here. Philip's patience finally snapped. What's with the questions? Is this a friendly drink or a police interrogation? He realized he might have been too aggressive and bit his lip, going silent as the tension spiked. Ian saw the slip-up and decided to lay his cards down. We aren't criminals. That's all you need to know. So quit circling and tell us what you really want. Stop wasting our time with these games. Ian's gaze locked onto the long-haired figure looming behind Patton. His cold observation sent a visible shiver through the pair before they could even react. Why is a high-ranking aristocrat masquerading as a low-rent mercenary? Or even better, playing the part of a commoner? Ian's blunt question made Philip flinch. Across the table, the mysterious man's composure finally shattered. He erupted into laughter, admitting they'd been caught red-handed. Was their performance really that Patton immediately dropped the act? Turning to his companion with a defeated sigh, he apologized for their blown cover. But the master simply dismissed the concern. Fooling someone of Ian's caliber was never going to happen. Patting Patton's shoulder, the man took a seat and formally apologized for the rudeness. He explained that since some mercenaries are straight-up dangerous, they needed to vet the duo before revealing their true cards. Ian didn't even blink coolly, accepting the apology without a hint of resentment. The stranger laughed again. Appreciate the chill vibes. Allow me to introduce myself properly. My name is Declan Butcher. The name hit Philip like a truck. Butcher, wait, are you serious? Are you Lord Ondel's heir? Why would a noble be stalking ordinary sellswords? Ian's voice remained steady as he pressed for answers. Declan revealed he oversees all mercenary activity within these city walls. Your combat skills are legendary, so I had to see the hype myself. Ian's mind began racing. This city is surprisingly peaceful despite the mercenary presence. There must be a strict system in play, a set of hidden rules keeping the chaos in check that I haven't decoded yet. Philip stammered out an apology, realizing he'd been unintentionally disrespectful to a high-ranking lord. No worries, Declan replied with a grin. Anyone would have reacted the same way. He shared that he's actually the second son of a concubine born from commoner blood himself. That explains a lot, Philip noted, glancing back at Ian. Ian then cut to the chase. Do you trust us now? Or do you need more proof of our loyalty? Declan's expression turned dead serious. That's plenty. Let's get down to business then, shall we? I want you both leading my forces. I'm appointing you as captain and vice-captain of my personal army. Philip nearly fell out of his chair. You want mere mercenaries to serve as elite soldiers. Exactly. War is brewing on the horizon, and while other lords overlook mercenary talent, I know better. Ian remained cautious, asking if the lord had actually authorized such a bold move. Definitely. It strengthens our house, and my father sees it as a total win, Declan chirped. But Ian pointed out that becoming a soldier usually requires a spotless reputation. True, but you two survived the impossible. That raw power is all the record I need. It's an offer most would kill for, right? Ian weighed the noble's words carefully. This guy acts humble, but he's sharp as a razor. You can see the ambition in his eyes. He's definitely a player in this game. Ian smiled faintly, refusing to give an immediate answer. Declan looked stunned. Why hesitate? Ian explained. He had an unfinished mission to settle first. A deal this big deserves serious thought. Declan's brow furrowed in confusion. Wasn't the crocodile hunt already wrapped up? Then the realization dawned on him. You're working on a secret commission, aren't you, Ian? Noted how quickly the noble connected the dots. After a brief moment of hesitation, Declan made a calculated decision to win them over. Tell me about this mission. I'll help you finish it if you promise to consider my offer. Are you for real? Ian asked, knowing this could make their objective much easier to achieve. Philip chimed in, worried that talking in public might leak their confidential details. Declan understood perfectly and signaled Patton to clear the room immediately. It's the mercenary code, right? Everyone out, give us some space to talk. Understood, Patton barked swiftly, ushering the crowd away. Once they were alone, they laid out their objective. Declan shared his intel after listening. That soldier, Nep, is likely dead. You said he was guarding a prisoner, right? Exactly. We're hunting the killer who took him down, Ian stated firmly. Curious about his fate, Ian played it cool, hinting that his end was anything but natural. Declan's expression instantly hardened. Unnatural? Are you implying the military is rotting from the inside? Bingo. I bet you've got more intel on this mess than us. What's your take? Declan went quiet, processing the bombshell. Humph. Here's the problem, though. The army's inner workings are a mystery to me. My father is the one calling the shots. And Mason is his heir. Ian's shoulders slumped. If that's the deal, you're no help at all. But before disappointment could settle, Declan's voice sliced through the air. Wait. I never said I wouldn't assist. This drama actually intrigues me. Just stay patient, and I'll deliver results under the Bershka name. Minutes later, after briefing his men, Declan gave a sharp nod. I dug around, and you're right, it's sus. This soldier Nep, plus the entire transport crew share a tragic link. They're all orphans with zero family ties. Essentially, if they vanish, no one's coming to find them. Ian's lips curled and Declan pointed. Exactly. Their inner circle is convinced they were simply reassigned to Angeline. The puppet master is a commander named Bradley. He's basically my brother Mason's shadow. So, with the cards on the table, what's your play? Declan smirked, eager for a reaction. Ian set his mug down with clinical precision. I think a friendly chat is in order. Declan's eyes widened in disbelief. A talk. You do realize Bradley is a master manipulator, right? He won't spill easily. Thwack. Ian plunged his dagger straight into the wooden table. I've got a specialized tool for dialogue. It carries a charm that forces the truth out. Declan caught the drift. He burst into a thrill-seeking laugh. Haha, I've got to witness this magic firsthand. Can I tag along? Ian shrugged, no harm in it. But he did have one non-negotiable term. Why not? However, you're setting the stage for this meeting. Haha, consider it done. I'll alert my men once the location is locked. It'll be fast. I'm dying to see how your little quest concludes. With that, Declan strolled back to his squad and started vibing with his team. This party is just starting. Drink till you drop. It's all on my tab, haha. Glory to the young master. The tavern erupted in cheers. Meanwhile, as the atmosphere buzzed, Ian noted how flawlessly things were falling into place. Sitting across from him, Philip couldn't help but be impressed. You've genuinely mastered the art of social manipulation. But enough of that. Ian's gaze sharpened into steel. Back to business. Did you complete the task I assigned? Yeah, I trailed him just like you ordered. Turns out I've got a knack for stealth. Philip began grumbling. But the moment the whining started, Ian's hand tightened on his blade, making Philip flinch back. Whoa, chill. Long story short, nothing out of the ordinary happened exactly as you predicted. His reputation in this town is quite something. A knowing smirk played on Ian's lips. Seems our little protege is all grown up. He handles his business without needing a script. Philip sighed, exhausted. I couldn't exactly tune out the gossip. The folks in Ondel basically worship the guy. Plus, after his mother passed, the Marquis officially adopted him. However, the eldest son Mason despises him, and the locals are terrified of an internal power struggle. They're planning to ship the young master off to the front lines, straight into a death trap. It's your typical messy family feud, but from what I saw, he isn't going down without a fight. If he survives, it's only because he's masking his true potential perfectly. That was Philip's take. Ian, however, was deep in thought. True, he might not walk the path of darkness, but the scent of blood still clings to him, Ian muttered. Cut to his private chambers, where silence finally settled. Finally alone, he began connecting the dots. Scoring the penthouse suite this quickly in Ondel was a win. The locals here are surprisingly welcoming, which makes things peaceful. Now let's see if Connacht's data holds any value. He thumbed through the weathered journal scanning for clues. Initial reaction, pure rage, and a hard refusal. Eventually I gave the priest an ear. Turns out my whole reality was a fabrication. Total psychopath vibes. Standard brainwashing spells are child's play compared to mastering magic through raw skill points like I do. Pointless, Ian muttered with a sigh, his mind racing through the possibilities. Exactly as predicted, the man who lured Connacht into Ajulan's cursed crypts. Soon Connacht will reveal his true allegiance and drag Aquilonia into ruin. A living hell where the void rules and ancient forgotten gods feast. Revolting, Ian thought, picturing the nauseating stare of the void's eye. He focused on the swirling violet currents surging across his palm again. Chaos force, pure void essence. A profane curse that feels strangely divine. This is forbidden strength meant only for the damned and the corrupted. System alert, Aquilonia's downfall. The corruption begins to reshape every soul. Knights turn dark, barbarians go berserk, and scouts become shadowy assassins. Priests evolve into elders, mages embrace darkness, and every quest updates. One slip means falling. Levels reset, and every ally becomes a threat. But Ian wields chaos without falling, shattering every limit of the Apostle quest. Mana's running dry, Ian realized. Time to master this terrifying new gift.